Are you searching for the best in online black radio? Then go to blacktalkradionetwork.com, helping you filter through the noise. Real talk, black talk.
The internet is full of half-truths and all-out lies. We've all seen them, and many people on social media complaining about it. Here's your chance to show and prove. WorldAfropedia.com is a black-owned and operated encyclopedia. There are several thousand articles, but we need help. We can't uncover all the truth ourselves. So please, join us and become a writer, editor, or blogger for WorldAfropedia.com today. Every little bit counts. We owe it to the future generations to put the truth out there. Visit WorldAfropedia.com, the African-centered encyclopedia, a global database of African knowledge for the purpose of bringing about global African wisdom and understanding. WorldAfropedia.com.
In Ashburn tonight, wait until you hear this. A couple left a local Mexican restaurant without tipping their waitress, even after complimenting her service. And then they left behind a racist message on the receipt. As Mike Carter-Canine reports, those two customers are not getting the last word.
Great service, but I don't tip black people.
That was the note scrawled on the bottom of a bill at Anita's Mexican restaurant in Ashburn on Saturday morning.
Shocker.
Kelly Carter says it was left with no gratuity by a 20-something white man and woman to whom she had served breakfast.
I'm appalled. This is so disheartening.
Her boss says Carter is a loyal employee and beloved by her customers.
Her philosophy for customer service is way beyond the norm, and we're really happy to have her.
Carter says they were like any other customers, acted no differently, no indication they were unhappy with her for any reason. She says the female customer even complimented the food.
And the lady was telling me that she loves the papa meal.
Carter did not ask for all this attention. It was two of her regular customers, outraged by the incident, who posted the photo on Facebook. And in one day, it's been shared nearly 900 times. The local chapter of the NAACP is also spreading the word. Hearing about the incident, the restaurant's owner says customers are now requesting Carter as their server, or just stopping by to give her hugs and give her money.
People are just coming in, dropping cash off.
Despite the hateful message, Carter still showed up for her shift Sunday at 6 a.m. And she makes clear she's not going to let this bother her.
He didn't hurt me. He only hurted himself. He only makes us stronger.
In fact, she says if those customers were to come back, she would even serve them again.
Just me serving them will let them know they did not get the best of me.
In Ashburn, Mike Carter-Canine, ABC 7 News.
Another one of the big things, and again, two-faced racism, whites in the backstage and front stage. 2 thumbs up from Gus T Renegade. Excellent, excellent book. Another thing that jumped out at me, you talked about, excuse me, these elaborate codes that white people refine and produce to talk about racism, both backstage and front stage, when they are even around other non-white people so that they can talk about racism unbeknownst to the non-white people that are present. And you talked about how this is especially developed in restaurant settings. I know I have a lot of non-white people, they work in the restaurant industry. Can you talk about some of these elaborate codes that have been developed, what the purpose for these codes is, and how they operate, particularly in restaurant settings?
Yes. Leslie Pickup, my co-author on the book, has worked as a waitress in many restaurants as a young white female. And she's watched many of her colleagues use this kind of code language that seems to be part of the colorblind era that we're in, where most whites want to be seen in positive terms and as virtuous, unlike probably their parents and grandparents, many of them who were openly racist. in public at least, many whites today want to be seen as colorblind and not racist. They know being racist is a bad thing. So they go into these code languages, and restaurant workers, waiters, waitresses, hosts and hostesses often use language like, well, the Canadians are coming, which means black clients or customers. Or they'll use this kind of code language to kind of disguise what they're really thinking again, somewhat like the joking. You know, you try to legitimate racist commentaries by putting it in another language or in another kind of framework by using that kind of terminology of, well, it's getting awfully dark in here, which means there are too many black customers in a certain section. Or you'll yell back to the cook that, don't be in a hurry to fix the meal for the Canadians. And if somebody overhears, you use the code word, because if somebody overhears you and doesn't know what the code words mean, they'll think you're just silly. When in fact it's a kind of racist communication in that kind of a setting. I think it's another indicator of this kind of colorblind era where many, if not most whites, still want to practice a kind of open, blatant racism, still want to think in those terms, but need to disguise it because of the kind of colorline veneer that's put on the society right now. And also because they now know they will get more resistance from black folks and other people of color. You see in some of the diaries when a white kid is caught using the N-word because there's a black person nearby. And they get very defensive, almost feeling like they're going to be retaliated against. So that's one reason for the code words, is because I know more people will speak up these days than maybe 30, 40, 50 years ago. But I think it's probably somewhat like the joking. It's a kind of cover-up of real feelings and real meanings.
Business is booming in downtown Detroit, but one popular bistro is closing its doors. The owner says they're being forced out because they're black. As Fox 2's Amy Lang explains, there is a racial battle brewing at the heart of Detroit's rebirth.
It's very painful because, we were just trying to do good business and we want to make things nice for the people for Detroit.
Marilyn Hall had big dreams for her restaurant, sunk her life savings into this place, leased the space. In November 2013, she and her son, Gerald Watson, opened Mo Better Blues on Adams in Detroit. But she says new building owners came in and now Mo Better is out.
They allowed us to build this place out, spent over $250,000 in it, and then wanted to get us out and put somebody else in it.
Gerald Watson says they've been in a legal battle for months with owners Kale's Grand Circus Park. Everything from rent payments to building conditions. An attorney for Kale's did not return our calls for comment, but Watson says he believes he and other black business owners are being forced out of this new Detroit.
I think it's racism. We feel they don't want blacks downtown.
Just last week, the Detroit News published a story about black-owned businesses evicted from the Himmelhoch building after leasing there for 30 years. And Darnell Smalls, the owner of the Tangerine Room next to Atwater Brewery, says he's being forced out as well by building owner Rivertown Holdings.
He wants the space back to be a part of, I guess, the revival. which I'm sure everybody wants to be a part of, but he's trying to just come up with a reason to, kick me out.
An attorney for Rivertown points to a judge's ruling that Smalls demolished part of the inside of the building, leading to his eviction. Smalls says he's still fighting and will be back in court Thursday.
I think in my case, particularly, he always wanted the space back.
After all, it's all about the space.
You think that's a shame, but it's not wrong, and it's not discrimination, and it's not anything evil.
Scott Griffin with Griffin Properties and Restaurant Group says Detroit's rebirth means landlords can now charge double what they did just 2 years ago.
But you can't blame that on the landlords who are buying these buildings at significantly increased prices now and who are trying to do the best thing they can for that building, for their investors.
But civil rights activist Reverend Horace Sheffield says other activists are organizing a boycott called No Blacks Downtown to discourage blacks from coming where it's perceived they're not wanted.
This town's gone through an awful lot to get where we are, and it needs to be a shared space and something that appreciates folks who never left with the same value as those who are just coming back.
Sheffield says he's meeting with business leaders and reaching out to property owners, hoping to bridge this divide.
Let's do better with this resurgence than we've done in the past. We've got one opportunity to get it right, and let's get everybody together and make it happen.
In Detroit, Amy Lang, Fox 2 News.
Context of White Supremacy. Gus T Renegade in for another broadcast, hopefully to share constructive information on the system of white supremacy. Today's date, Thursday, January 12th, 2017. So I have been told. This is our weekly broadcast on workplace racism. Folks have commentary they would like to share. We'll be looking forward to hearing folks dial in. I'm having some odd audio interference. That is pretty strange. Give me 1 second. I'm going to disconnect my line and see if I can correct the audio echo. I will give myself a commercial and just dial right back in. 1 second. Context of White Supremacy.
See, so when black people say, well, I'm not going to be involved in no blackness and all like that.
This service is provided. Incorrect access code. Please re-enter your access code followed by the pound. Please re-enter your access code followed by the pound. You exceeded number of attempts. Please contact customer service if you need assistance. Goodbye. This service is provided in high definition by freeconferencecallhd.com. Please enter your access code followed by the pound. This menu will repeat. Please enter your access code followed by the pound. Access code accepted. This conference is being recorded. Q&A session started.
About Tyrus Wong. I want to reference a quote that...
Alrighty. Got the audio problem corrected. That was extra, super, special strange. It was reverberating on multiple speakers for some odd reason. This was a challenging day on multiple fronts for a variety of reasons, which it tends to be on the plantation. But today was a day. Plantation delivered lots of ugliness, and we were able to resolve things without too much bother and without too much stress. We're still able to get a few jokes in, and even had a kind word for Chantel. I think she should be chiming in to discuss workplace racism as well. That's it. Again, this is Workplace Racism every Thursday. That is one thing I wanted to say from the beginning. Doing a better job of listening. I think that's something that we all, Gus T Renegade, you can put my name at the top of the list. We need to do a better job of listening. I've noted that and that is real important when it comes to dealing with racists. When you're dealing with someone who has a tendency to be dishonest, you really want to make sure that you are paying very close attention to what they are saying, what they are doing. So let's make sure we're working on paying attention. One example of that is I have quite a few people. If it was just one person, I would say, okay, well, maybe it's not a big deal. But since multiple people, there seems to be confusion about when the workplace racism program is. And I say that at the beginning of every program, I can only conclude that people are not doing a good job of listening. If they're not listening from the very beginning, or they got other things going on, because this program is on every Thursday. It's been on every Thursday for over 7 months now. Every Thursday, same time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, workplace racism. Tune in if you have commentary, experiences, if you have problems, certainly if you have figured out some things that are successful for you with regards to neutralizing attempted acts of racism on the job. Tune in, give us a ring, the number 641-715-3640, and the code is 564943 pound. Press star 6 if you would like to participate. That number again, 641-715-3640. The code 564943 pound. Press star 6 if you would like to participate. Quick things I will get in. We had folks who wrote in, quite a few folks. I think a lot of people, the quote-unquote holiday is over. So I think for a lot of people, they have been back on the JOB for a week. So now more people have things to share for workplace racism. But before I get to that, Neely Fuller Jr., I've played a lot of his clips. I would say he is one of the people, for as big a problem that I say this is, workplace racism, regardless whether you quote-unquote are self-employed or not, that this is a big issue. He's one of the few people that I hear when they talk about racism publicly who will consistently, regularly talk about racism, white supremacy within the context of the workplace, which is super important since so many of us spend so many hours there on a weekly basis, and that has such a huge critical impact on our quality of life. I was speaking with a victim of racism yesterday who will be on the program next week, talking about housing situation, which is also super important. But we called Mr. Fuller, and he was giving some suggestions to this victim. And even though we were talking about a housing situation, he was talking about the importance of not getting emotional, being able to stay calm, that racist, one of their tactics that they will try to use, particularly with black people, is to just, I'm going to get them upset. I'm going to get them riled up. I'm going to insult them and be discourteous and be rude. I might even call them a nigger. I'm going to do whatever I need to do to get them riled up. And then when they flip out and start cursing and all that, or they might even, the black person might get upset enough that they become violent, then we can do whatever we want to. We can form like Voltron. We can call in enforcement officers. We can call in the boss to get you fired if this is in the context of the job. He was saying, really make sure that you stay calm. And he kept emphasizing this is going to be used on the jobs a lot. It already has been. And in his view, he felt it was going to be done increasingly so. Having whites on the job just saying things, doing things just to get you angry. Like they know that you're having financial problems, or you've been having difficulties at home, or maybe you just had a divorce or anything. They know you're having difficulties. We're going to pluck that nigga's nerves, and then we'll be able to fire him or whatever we want to do. So really, got to make that an essential part of your counter-racist code. He emphasized that a lot, and just he stopped on a dime for a random black person to try to offer as much constructive advice as he could. In my view, another stellar illustration of black self-respect. Moving forward, a couple quick things, as I said before I get to some of the folks who wrote in. That was one. The second thing, you heard at the beginning, I think a lot of folks heard about the situation where the racists came in and left that they don't tip, which is, at minimum, ironic, because the racist running racist idea is that niggers don't tip, right? They say that all the time. So they didn't have them come in reverse. I thought of that in multiple facets. Number one, I'm sure this is a widespread phenomenon. I'm sure these are not the only whites who, that's their code. They don't tip niggers who are serving them. So just the economic implications of that for black waiters, waitresses, if you have lots of racists who do not tip or do not adequately tip their servers. That was one. Two, within the video that I played specifically where they had that on the news, they had multiple images where they kept going back and showing the same tubby racist woman coming to hug this victim at the restaurant. Oh, we just love you so much. They showed it once and then they had to come back and show it again at the end of the video to just make sure that we really emphasize that, hey, we don't want you to think that this is representative of all of us. We don't want you to think we're all racist. We have tons of, good, well-meaning whites who would be glad to come out and hug a nigger or two on camera. That was Dr. Joe Fegan in the middle. He was on the program in 2010. We talked about his book, Two-Faced Racism, which does have a lot of constructive information because it gives a lot of explicit detail directly from whites about what they talk about when non-white people are not present. He calls that being in the backstage. And he also, that segment that you heard, he has a big chunk of the book is on racist jokes. We talked about that, but he also has a big chunk of the book that is on racism in the food service industry and how elaborate the codes are that whites have for how they're going to practice racism in that sort of environment. I think that is extremely important information related to what we heard. And then the end piece, it's important because I hear so frequently, even from people on this program, the notion that if we black people, if we become entrepreneurs, open our own businesses, that will defeat racism in the workplace. Everyone who believes that is incorrect. I rarely make that sort of, direct statement. It is what it is. Either I'm correct or I'm incorrect. You being a black person, self-employed on the plantation is not going to solve your problem with racism. As you heard from the end clip, I'm sure there were people saying from the very beginning, forget that. Why even be a waitress? We should open our own restaurants and open out. Fine, you can do that. That's not going to solve your problem with workplace racism. Now, we will get to some of the things that folks wrote in, and then we'll get to folks who actually dialed in. First person that wrote in, I just wanted to add my 2 cents about discussing racism and or politics in the workplace. Such discussions, especially with white coworkers, should be avoided at all costs. I could not agree more. Absolutely no good can come of it. This was written in all caps, bold-faced print. Last year, I grew so tired of my boss's political tirades that I encouraged him to read Dog Whistle Politics by Ian Hani Lopez. He's been a guest on the program. I did so because he was always pestering me to read books from his book list, conservative political propaganda, if you ask me. So I thought he should read something from my book list. I wanted him to understand my position, namely that all politicians, whether Democrat or Republican, lie and use coded language to appeal to their base. I thought if he understood my position, he would understand that I didn't care to hear any political talk and would therefore not attempt to engage me in political discussions. I was dead wrong. He read the book and started inviting me to lunch to discuss it. Cringe. I dodged lunch for months. After about 7 months, I did have lunch with him off-site at a nearby restaurant. For the most part, lunch was pleasant, as we were just playing catch-up because he had retired from the company by that time. He indicated that he found the book interesting, but then he began to deny that Republicans use coded language and said that they weren't racists, of course. Then, wouldn't you know it, he gave me 2 books that he wanted me to read. I placed those books in the backseat of my car and haven't looked at them again. That was last year around July 2016. Well, even though he's retired, he still comes to the work site to use the gym or eat lunch with some of his old cronies. From time to time, he'll ask me if I had the chance to read the books he gave me, to which I reply that I haven't. About a week ago, I saw him seated in the lunchroom. Suddenly, one of the gentlemen that usually sits with him came up to me and asked me if I'd like to discuss cultural issues. I emphatically told him no, because no good can come of it, and that all people want to do is talk and not actively change anything. It's kind of funny, I no longer work with this man, but he's still able to directly and indirectly harass me. Moral of the story, and all of this is in boldface print and underline, discussions about racism and politics have no place on the job site. Don't pussyfoot around, be direct, decisive, and resolute about letting your coworkers know that you won't discuss racism and politics in the workplace because absolutely no good can come of it. Next up. Oh, this is from our young scholar in the Bay Area. He's called in many, many times. I think last Saturday on the compensatory call-in most recently. He says, in my history class, we were learning about the Haitian Revolution. I've learned that slavery in Saint-Domingue, where the French took over, the island later to be known as Haiti, slavery occurred and was probably about as cruel as slavery in the United States. There were some leaders that helped make the revolution happen in the first place. I also found it interesting how they classified the Affranchis of the island, which were the free mulatto people, cowbell. The French referred these people with that name as an insult because they did not like the fact that they live like them, the most sophisticated. I also feel like the Haitian Revolution gave Haiti independence from those who have oppressed the island and citizens living there. All he wanted to share. Always good to hear from him. See if I can get in one more. Oh, okay. I'll get in this one and then I'll get the other one in as we proceed. If you are listening to the live broadcast and you would like to email commentary in, you can't call in for whatever reason, you can email your commentary to untiljustice@gmail.com, untiljustice@gmail.com, and I can read it on the air anonymously, and if people want to respond, reply to what you have to say, we can get it in. All right, so next up. My name is Keith. I work as an electrician on a job site in the Bronx, and every day when I go use the bathroom, which is a porter potty, I have to see racist graffiti. These are the same restrooms that all of the bosses use, and not once has this come up in a meeting or even a discussion. I would like to call into the show this evening, but I don't know what time it goes live. Right now, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Same time every week. 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, 5 p.m. Pacific. Same time every Thursday. He has illustrations so that you can see exactly what people have written in the restroom area. Lots of things returning with Trump. One of them says, red, white, blue will be great again. Trump 16. That's important. I've read that passage before. Dr. Welsing talks about the significance of that color scheme, red, white, and blue, in the ISIS papers. Dr. Kamal Kamban talked about it as well. That's kind of like the white supremacist color scheme. He has some of them, it just has swastikas. Let's see, he has another one that says no smoking, and it looks like some sort of picture of a black person. One of those racist caricatures with KKK written next to it, a swastika, Trump. If you want to see all of the racist artwork, I could, I guess, forward it to you, but he took quite a few pictures, and that might even be something to bring up in a meeting. Like, is this appropriate? Because, I mean, I suspect this would be the type of porta potty that does not have public access, right? I assume that you all just don't have random people coming through and using this. So if this is restricted to a small number of people who are using this facility, this might probably got to be some of the people that we're working with. Is this acceptable for the workplace? Just a question. Questions that could be asked. I'll stop there. The number again is 641-715-3640, and the code is 564-943#. Press star 6 if you would like to participate. Folks who dialed in who have a hand up, the line should be open, and I will just make sure I get in my encouragement again. This is not a program for spectators. This is not a program to just listen in weekly basis. Oh man, I want to hear what wacky things they're talking about this week. If you are a black person and you have work experience, you can reflect on your work experience. It can be current. It can be a job that you had 5 years ago, 10 years ago. You can share if you recall experiences where racism was a problem for you. And you can think about it in terms of, this was when I was more confused. This is what happened then. This is what I would do now, almost akin to what the person who wrote in about when they were more confused and were trying to give out or suggest literature to their racist coworkers. Now they have learned better understanding of how they would function. That is very important because we do have younger listeners who don't have an extensive work history. And even if you do have an extensive work history, I think it is very constructive to be able to see those patterns and where you're just seeing repetition of behavior, where they do the same types of things worldwide. Doesn't matter how old they are, they pick up the same racist antics. Very, very helpful. Really encourage folks to dial in to share. And if you figured out some things that work well, you should be on speed dial because we need that immediately. Folks who dialed in, who have a hand up, line should be open. Feel free.
May I be heard?
Yes, ma'am.
Evening to all the callers on the line. This is Kendra. I would just like to share a workplace situation that has been a bit upsetting, to say the least. So I'll just kind of get right into it. So about 6 years ago, the company I currently work for had a mentorship program where they paired up individuals that they identified as future leaders within the company with individuals that were in leadership positions. So I was paired up with a non-white black male that became my mentor. We formed a really cohesive relationship where I learned a lot from him. The company ended up being bought out by a large holdings company. So about a year after the buyout, the company decided that they were going to scale back on the number of district managers that they had in the sales department. One of the positions that they eliminated was my mentor's position. He was placed in a sales position instead of actually being the district manager of the sales department. He did sales for a little while, but I guess was not performing the way the company envisioned. So they bumped him into a position called category management. I would speak to him off and on, and he seemed to love what he was doing. About a month and a half ago, the company decided that they no longer needed a category management department and relocated all of the individuals that were in that department into new roles. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it might have been 6 individuals, 4 being non-white black males, and then 2 being, actually I think 1 would be categorized as Hispanic in the system, and then 1 white male. So anyway, I ran into my mentor one day at the office and asked him what his new role entailed, and he told me that they hadn't found him a permanent position, that he was just floating around from sales to delivery, doing whatever they asked him to do, but that he wasn't concerned at all because he had given the company 40 years collectively between both companies, and that he knew that they would take care of him. When he said that, I kind of paused a little bit, that he was so confident. Anyway, I received a call last Thursday from one of the guys that I know that work in the warehouse, basically saying, you're not going to believe what they have done, with your mentor. And so I asked him what, and he said they made him the janitor. And when he said the janitor, I said, are you serious? And he said, yeah. So I literally thought that the guy who called me was mistaken, but later on another individual told me the same thing. So this past Tuesday, while I was at the office, I ran into my mentor, and he was mopping the floor. And he told me that he wasn't planning to be at the company much longer, but didn't say how long. One thing that was really striking was that he would not make eye contact with me during the whole 10 minutes of our conversation, which kind of made me feel like he was a little bit broken. He's a 58-year-old male, and he gave 40 years to the company. And in the end, they gave him a janitorial position. They didn't do that to any of the older, white people that's in his age group or a bit younger, that's been with the company a shorter period of time. Those individuals have office positions or different positions, but none of them, were made a janitor. And that's the story.
What a disgrace. What a disgrace. I'm sorry you had to experience that, because I mean, I'm sure it had to be devastating for him. I mean, that's you invest 40 years of your life in a company, and that's how I'm supposed to wrap up my career, not with a gold watch and a nice office and, thank you for your years of service. Here's a mop. I mean, geez, what a disgrace. I'm sorry you had to see that. I'm sorry that happened to your mentor. But I mean, if folks remember, Mr. Fuller, I'm getting my clips together for my Obama broadcast when President-elect Trump is inaugurated next Friday. Mr. Fuller has an audio clip from 2008 when it was President-elect Obama at the time. And he said, oh, wait a minute, this is 2009. He had already been elected. But this is 2009. This is Mr. Fuller's first visit on the program. And he said, if white people decide tomorrow that President Obama is going to be janitor, that's what he will be. He will be down there buffing floors. They can send him back to Chicago and he'll be buffing floors. And they could do that in the next 5 minutes if they choose to. Very important for all of us to keep that in mind, because that's what the system of racism, white supremacy means. You can end up with a mop man and might be grateful to have the mop bucket in some instances. They could see to that as long as the system of white supremacy exists. Folks have any? Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Oh, hey, I just wanted to share some experience I've had at work. I work in retail, and I'm the only black person at my job. We have a district manager, but she's in a tragic arrangement, and I believe that she's genuinely confused about everything. And it's kind of weird, because it's like the more that I'm becoming less confused as to how racism and white supremacy works, the harder it is for me to go to this job every day. And it's like I deal with a bunch of like people that are like that you blatantly know are racist, but I can't do anything about it, and it's just terrible. I really don't know what to do with this situation.
That is the world that we live in. And I do know for many of our listeners who, like, as you're kind of beginning to get a better understanding of racism, white supremacy, that it can be very difficult making that transition on the job. I don't know if that's your exact situation, like if this is a spot where if you were there and you were not as informed when you started, and so you were doing whatever you were doing, if you were talking nicely, if you didn't think of these whites as racist, so you were just interacting with them as though they were not racist, and then you get a better understanding, it starts to completely change the way you view them and wanting to be around them, wanting to talk to them, wanting to spend time with them. If that's your situation, that has happened to a lot of victims of racism, where they've had that exact experience. I don't know how long you've been at this company. Is this a sort of job where, even though it's frustrating, you're understanding that you're working with racists, is this the sort of job that you would want to stay, or is this something where you weren't pleased with it anyway?
I'm currently getting my master's degree, so really at this point it's just paying the bills,
Oh, okay. Well,
I don't have that much longer to be there, but it's just like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I really don't have the words for it. Like, it's just frustrating on so many different levels.
Well, that is what the system of racism, white supremacy is designed to produce. Lots and lots and lots of frustration for black people. And the racists that you're working with, I say this all the time, Mr. Fuller also, you can leave, but you would just be getting another job with a different set of racists. Like, that's the thing, to really keep in mind. Like, you can always leave. The folks racists might encourage that. They might celebrate, like, we didn't want the nigger here anyway. But the next job is just going to have a new set of racists. So the thing that he does encourage is us figuring out a codified way. Even if that means you're going into business yourself, fine. You're still going to have to deal with racists. Figuring out... Go ahead.
I really don't talk to them much. I mean, I'm kind of still on your codified response of, to a lot of the things that they say. And it's like with my district manager that's in the tragic arrangement. She goes out and parties with them and goes drinking with them and all this, that, and the other. And I'm like, girl, how are you doing this?
Wow. If it's a short timetable that, like, I'm just counting down the days until I get that master's and, I'm out of here. I'm on to better things. It might be something, because that is a position that you're probably going to find yourself in for as long as you are working in whatever capacity. How am I going to deal with these racists on the job? Even if you own the company, how am I going to deal with these racists, on the job in the company that I own? I would try to start figuring out things that you can do that make it better in terms of your ability to function in that environment without being as stressed. I think that's a challenge that all of us deal with. But in terms of things that you can do that would make it, yes, I'm working with racists and I'm not quitting, at least not this week. So what are things that I can do that are going to make this better for me, where I'm still safe? I know that I'm working with racists, but things that can make this a little bit better for me to be able to function in this environment. Is there anything, that you can think of that would help? I was even thinking projects, like being able to study what's happening with this victim that's in a tragic arrangement, how that evolves over the time that you're there in terms of what happens. Does racism come up? Is she mistreated? Like, I would be thinking of little side projects that I would do where I can learn more useful information moving forward. You can always... I
just want to watch the interaction that she has, like, with other employees and even, like, management on top of her. And it's like they really just talk to her any kind of way, and she just takes it.
That is the system. The other quick suggestion I was going to give, if listeners have any ideas, that would be great as well. The other quick suggestion, when you're in that sort of work situation where it's a limited amount of time I'm going to be here. I'm relocating, or this was not a permanent job anyway. I'm getting my master's, or I'm doing whatever I'm doing. You can use that opportunity to practice your codification for the next job. In terms of these are questions that I will ask. These are things that I will do. So I'll already have some OJT for my counter-racist code. You can definitely take that advantage. So when you go into the next situation, you'll already have tried out some things and you'll be able to see how they work. Boom, this is how I'll say it here. When I go here, this is what I'll do here. Boom, boom. You can always do that. Did folks that are listening in have any suggestions for the caller that we just heard from, who was talking about some of her frustrations? Any suggestions?
Can I be heard?
Yes, ma'am.
The only suggestion I have, and it might not really apply because I have, this is Jay from Ohio. It might not work because I know that I worked in retail before, but I know what I have been able to do with my job, so that way I'm not just bogged down with all the different stuff that racists like to talk about, or suspected white supremacists like to talk about on my job. Is I do listen to a lot of podcasts or music. I always try to make sure, even if I don't have that, if I do have like some spare time where it might be taken as, I can be engaged in like conversation, I'll try to have a book. So I'll try to always make sure that I at least appear to be busy. Like I said, I don't know if that might work for you, but I know that has definitely helped me, at least to where I'm not, like, my mind is not so idle, and I'm focusing on just stuff they're saying that it's not going to help me be constructive.
Thank you. By the way, I'm Ashley in Louisiana. Now, what I do, like when I'm doing inventory on the floor or something, I will have like some headphones and I will be listening to a podcast or something, just so my mind won't be so idle and I don't have to hear the ignorant things that come out of their mouths.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
I agree with you, Gus, and to the other callers and listeners. Also, something else that might help with the stress are frequencies. If you go to YouTube, there's different frequencies that actually, it's either tones or actual music that can shift your brain vibration to a more relaxed state. even if you're in a stress situation or a situation where you're upset, and the ones you can look them up on YouTube. They have them. Some of them are hours long. Some of them are just like 30 minutes or an hour. But one is 396 hertz. That one is used for liberating guilt and fear. 417 hertz is for undoing situations and facilitating change. 528 hertz is for transformation and miracles, also DNA repair. 639 hertz is for connecting and relationships. 741 hertz is for expression and solutions. And the final one is 852 hertz, and that is for returning to spiritual order. And these are different tones that I've used, and also I've recommended them to other people that they utilize in their meditations and things like that, and it's helped them immensely. So hopefully that will also help you as well, as far as just dealing with any of the emotional aspects and the anxiety aspects, or even the emotional discomfort. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anytime. I wish you the best, because that's a very tough situation.
Let's see if we can nab other suggestions as we go for Ashley in Louisiana. I don't know, the first caller, Kendra, that dialed in, I don't know if that's a suggestion other than if folks want to comment, but certainly you're always welcome if you want to comment on anything that you've heard from other callers, or if you have suggestions for other callers or questions for any of the other callers, always feel free. Other folks, if you all have commentary you would like to share, line should be open.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
This is 2812 from Virginia. Hope everybody's having a good night. I give a quick update about last week. I called in reference to the conflict that I had with the older white female. Stated she was going to slap me. Took the advice, thought about it, and I'm just going with no contact, no conflict. And I just stopped talking, period. She actually did have to call me. It was ironic because she did need help with something. And at that moment, even when the phone was ringing, I said, if I'm tacky with this, this can go far. And so I picked up the phone, said, how can I help you? She had a question about something on the computer. I gave her exactly what to do, and that was it. And I haven't heard from her in about a week and a half. So, and also changed my tone. How I'm speaking with her, not in a negative way, but just a little bit more straightforward. Thank you, and stuff like that. And it's been very, very helpful. I think she got the point. But another thing, I've got a couple stories in there. But another thing is that I noticed now that when Gus had mentioned something about retrospect, when I first started working there. I'm at a new company. I'm in the mortgage business. She sat down and was talking to me about she has a friend. This lady makes like $500,000 a year, and she's a black female. And she's like, yeah, I don't know what's going on with her. She just has trouble finding dates, and she can't do this, and no, she can't really find a good man. And I was wondering if you have any friends for her. And I kind of looked at her, and I was like, why would you? I don't set people up for anything. But I said, that's a very weird question. And, there's a lot of other people that work there, and I didn't see her asking any other black males there, because there's a lot of us there. It's about maybe 5 or 6 in that particular office. So I just found that peculiar. Another thing is that the company I used to work for a couple of years ago, I had a manager, and this guy was a Marine, and I remember I was really confused about racism. I was really confused about life. But I was really confused about racism, and he used to sit me in there, and for at least 30 minutes a day, he would go on about Barack Obama. And I remember he's like, oh, he's terrible, the Democrats are terrible, and they suck, and this is what they're going to do. And I would just look at him like, why is he saying this? And even when he was done, I was like, hey, well, he's got a job to do. And I wasn't really codified because I was pretty confused, but I knew I didn't want to kind of get into that with him. And so that was just something I remembered, just how tacky it was. And then I have a situation to where I have a gentleman that was, I guess I'll call it an attempted tragic arrangement. And unfortunately in Virginia, where I'm at, there's a lot of them. And I mean a lot. It was an attempted tragic arrangement. Just long story short, there's a white female. I know her because my sons used to play on the same football team with her children, and she has 2 non-white boys. Every male that she dates is a non-white male, every single one of them. And apparently these 2 were engaged, and this non-white male called me and said, hey, you know, have you seen her? And somebody, I'm like, why are you asking me, have I seen this woman? He's like, yeah, because she's not calling me and things of that nature. And, you know, this guy is like literally, I don't even want to call it suicidal, but he's really like, his whole life is changing. She kicked him out. He doesn't have anywhere to live. And it's a pattern for all of these other gentlemen that she works with. She also does in-home health care, and the people that she does in-home health care for they have a tendency to be black males as well, for people that have mental issues and things of that nature. The reason why I know this is because I've done a mortgage loan for her. That was interesting. And then the last thing I want to mention, I know it's going to sound a little crazy, but I want to thank Gus because the beginning of this week was really tough. But I listened to I think it was last week where you had the 2 young ladies that were involved, and their parents, they're in biracial, have biracial parents. And in the beginning, before you did your introduction, there was a song playing. And I think it was called Biracial Girl. And I was like, I don't think that's a real song. And I YouTubed it, and that was my laugh of the week. So, Mr. Renegade, I appreciate it. And that's it.
That is hilarious. I think one of those young ladies should be with us. Chantel is hanging out right now. But that is hilarious because Sean Fury did that song, Biracial Girl. And I too, if ever I'm having a tough time on the plantation, which is often, I will watch that video and laugh for a good 5 minutes. He is a victim of racism, but I mean, it's all entertainment, so I feel no problem. I have laughed and laughed and laughed, and every time I hear it, that helps get my spirits up and continue going. So if you got some enjoyment, wonderful, wonderful. I'm so glad. Other folks who have commentary, and that's great. I'm glad you no contact with a white woman who physically threatened you with violence. The no contact and just changing your tone of voice, because whites, they get that when, this nigger has changed. How he's excellent. Minimized. I would make sure that we are not in close proximity for her to do anything. Any of our conversation is going to be email, phone, and that way you'll have a written record if it's via email. Phone, I might even think about recording the conversation based on her terroristic behavior. Other folks who dialed in, if you had questions, comments, or if you wanted to share your own situation, proceed.
Can I be heard?
Can I be heard?
We'll get the female caller.
So, this is Jay from Ohio again. I actually have, I guess, 2 observations, or I definitely need help with at least one. So, with my job, they have hired some more people to help out with the workload, and the one lady that they hired 3 people, 1 white woman and 2 non-white black females. And I end up having to train the white woman. She's like an older white lady, not quite sure, maybe in her late 40s, 50s, something like that. Now all of them, and even myself, we've all gotten the same type of training. Now, actually, except for with these 3 new people, I'm assuming they got maybe like an extra day or something like that. But usually, whenever someone comes through this group that I'm in, they always seem to add on at least an extra day of training, because apparently the people who had taken the training before me, they only had, let's say, 2 days, then I had 3 days, and now the new people that just came out, they had 4 days. Well, this white woman who was supposed to be essentially taking over half of my workload, she has done this repeatedly, has said, well, I wasn't trained on that. And just knowing, like, because my supervisor has told all of us, all the people who are working on basically the same type of projects, they have gone through training, essentially the same training that, that I went through and some of the other people that were in my training class went through. And so it's like it was definitely puzzling to me whenever she would come to me and say something like that. And I've been constantly having to go back to her and say, hey, it's in this document, how to do this. We were all basically got in the same training. I did say it a lot more codified than that, but I really had to take several deep breaths before I actually responded back to her because I was definitely getting frustrated. I actually ended up going to our manager and saying something to him because he's actually come to me and asked me to give her additional training, which I had to do, and I would still run into this whole thing where I know for a fact that I trained her on certain processes, and then when I would ask her to complete those same processes, she would say, oh, well, I wasn't trained in that. I only know how to do this. So the main thing that I've been doing is just basically listening to the podcast, just like I had mentioned to the other female caller, just trying to just take a deep breath before I respond back to her, especially when she says, well, this is beyond my expertise and things of that nature. But I'm not quite sure how I can really I'm sure, of course, I understand that there's no getting through to her, and our manager is also a white male, and there's definitely no getting through to him either. So I'm not quite sure how to really deal with that, and it's actually gotten to the point to where she's now affecting basically my job. Because if she's supposed to be helping me with my workload, and if she's not doing that, then essentially it falls back on me. And she's actually done something wrong, and it's fallen back on me to correct it. That was the first thing. The second thing, it's not so much as a problem, but it's definitely I'm definitely glad that I've been listening to the cows for at least a few months now. And what I've noticed is that with racism, white supremacy, or these suspected races, they definitely get you accustomed to like the few extra nipples that they want to give you, and then they'll change the processes to where it's possible that they're taking away the bonuses or whatever that they've allowed you to get. And so at first I was almost ready to get very upset, but of course that's what they want to do. They want to make you emotional. Just for instance, now it's like with the different projects, if they are reviewed, and if let's say we do something wrong, we can get double marks instead of just the one mark that we would usually get before they change the processes. And I feel like that's definitely something that I've heard from other people, or like other family members, when dealing with jobs where they've had like bonuses where you can earn just based on your job performance. And then once they figured out that, there's too many people getting them consistently, then that's when they start to change it. I'm sorry. And then there's one other instance. It's actually with my mother. She is a manager at a call center. And there was a situation with a non-white, non-black male, and who was not necessarily she's not necessarily supervising, but he would come to her. They were kind of like became close. Apparently, he was in the military or some type of part of, I don't know, the armed forces, what have you, and he would get very emotional all the time and get very mad at people, especially if they have said something to him. And he is also like gone to HR and basically definitely not being codified, definitely being very, I'm assuming he's definitely very confused. Well, ever since he basically started to, I would say, put a target on himself, the higher-ups, the people who are above my mother, who, for the most part, they are white, except for there's one Asian woman, and then there's one black woman, which my mother had described as the black lady being a very, very confused individual who just likes to kiss up to the white people who are in upper management. Well, the Hispanic male, he did something wrong. He gave like a discount to someone who he wasn't supposed to give a discount to. My mother tried to correct it because the Hispanic male, knowing their relationship, he came to her, and my mother tried to fix it, still giving the customer the discount. And so the management, that was definitely their cue. That's basically all they needed to get rid of the Hispanic male or the Latino male. But my mother was actually very confused about it because she was speaking with someone else in a different department because she couldn't understand how they could even find out that he had given a discount to a customer because of the size of the company and the amount of customers that all the different associates speak to. So my mother has basically feels like they must have been listening to all of his calls, waiting for him to do something wrong. But the issue that she's having now is that now they want to discipline her because she tried to correct the issue, not necessarily for his benefit, but to benefit the customer, because if the customer was already promised a discount, and if the non-white, non-black male already promised them that, then she didn't necessarily feel that she felt like she had the power to do so. And she also told me that just the day prior, when she didn't know she really had the ability to, let's say, give a discount or, do an upgrade or what have you. She had actually, her white supervisor had told her, well, you do have the ability to do this since you are a supervisor, but then when she does take the initiative to correct the issue that the male did, then that's when they want to discipline her. So just wanted to get some feedback on those issues. Thank you for listening.
Absolutely. We'll see if, folks have, because there are so many distinct scenarios, one of them not even you specifically with your mother. With your mother's situation, the word that immediately jumped out to me, discretion. I've talked about that on the program before, where just basically racists, they have license, they can change policy when they see fit, they can just make up whatever they want to do on the spot. I've said consistently that is decoded as feel free to practice white supremacy at will, that word discretion. But that's what it sounds like to me, this discount thing. Like this might be something where we have discretion, we can give the discount when we want to or you cannot give it if you want to. If you're a manager, you might have that authority to do so. It seems like she was told that, and then them coming back and decide, well, no, we're going to get you in trouble because you shouldn't have done that. That's the first thing that came to mind. I would want to know, precisely what policy or rule they're saying is being violated. Because that's where that discretion thing, too, sometimes that'll end up being one of the non-written type policies that, well, if you're a manager, you can do this, you can come make your own decision about how you want to handle situations. I would be trying to ask specifically if it's being stated that I did something incorrect, can you, show exact policy? Where exactly in the manual, did I violate a rule? And particularly given if it's about this discount where I had been told previously that having the position that I do, I have the authority, the discretion to, exercise to give a discount or not from the position that I have. I want clarification on that. With your situation, with the incompetent white person who's saying that she didn't get training or this is beyond her understanding and now it's compromising your ability to work efficiently, I would this is why I talk about documentation all the time. I would have a written record of every time where she said the exact assignment, this is the date, this is what she said she was not trained on. And granted, you are going to have to go back to a white person, but I would want an extensive paper trail, as they say, of this is where she failed, this is where she failed, this is where she failed, and saying that she doesn't know how to do this. I don't know. I wasn't there, so I don't know what her training was, but if we're all supposed to get basically the same type of training, we're all supposed to be able to do this. How do we proceed if this person is consistently saying that they are not able to complete this task? Do they need to be retrained? What do we need to do to get this resolved so that she is efficiently able to complete all of her tasks? Does she need to be retrained? If so, can we get that done? If retraining her is not an option, then how do we move forward? that questions. Those are the questions I would ask, and that might even be something that I would write to the white boss via email before this becomes a sit-down conversation. That way there's a written record of that as well. If we have an employee who's saying that they have not been trained adequately to complete their work duties, and I go to my supervisor, who's, I guess, this person's supervisor as well, this person's saying that they're not trained well enough to do their job, what should be done about this? Does she need to be retrained? If not, how do we resolve this? And then whatever their written response, boop, I would put that in my file as well. Do folks have suggestions for this, our female caller currently, either her mom's situation about this discount and them getting rid of the quote-unquote Latino male and now coming after her, or her having to deal with this incompetent, racist white woman on the job? Folks have suggestions?
I would keep a paper trail of every encounter I had with this incompetent white woman. And I would write down whatever you talked about or whatever I had to walk her through on how to do something. And I would just sign and date it.
If you go that route, I would log the time that you have to spend showing, because that's also compromising your work efficiency. If you have to stop and take 20 minutes, 30 minutes, however long it takes to show her, I would include that as well, because then when questions start being asked about why you had to work more hours or why you couldn't get as much done, well, on Monday, January the 9th, I had to stop and train Beth for 30 minutes to do this. And then it came back on Wednesday, the 11th, I had to stop and train for another 40 minutes. And that way you can show now, by the time we get to the end of the week, that's an additional 2 hours of work time that I lost, that I did not, include, that I was going to have to take 2 hours out of my schedule to retrain her on something that she should already know how to do. Yes, sir.
Oh, thank you. I would also suggest if you can correspond with her in email, so you have, documentation in email form, that's considered a legal document and it's dated and time-stamped. Also, I would record my conversations with her too, because if she's repeatedly, if you're training her on things and she repeatedly says she doesn't know how to do what you have been training her on, then she's just completely incompetent, because usually training should be a one-shot deal where the person gets what they need to do and then they move on. So if you're having to retrain her consistently on the same thing, obviously she's just not competent. So I would actually have those conversations that I have with her, I would record them. And that way at least you even have her in her own words, basically telling on herself. So if anything does come back, you can just, hey, let's go right to the recording and we can hear what she had to say out of her own mouth and leave it at that. Thank you. I'll mute my line.
This type of situation as well, just because white people lie all the time, it could just be that she's incompetent. That certainly happens in a system of white supremacy where white people who are clearly not qualified for a job and they get it anyway. That happens all the time. This also could just be a lazy heifer where she does know how to do this and she's just being stupid, playing stupid, practicing racism so that you end up getting all this work or even maybe get in trouble because she is botching your workload. That also could be the case. I just think that's important to keep in mind proceeding. If that is the case, that she's just lying and being lazy about all this, that might impact, how I proceed if I got confirmation or if I began to think that is the case, that she's just lying. Do you have a sense about, is this really just a lame, incompetent, racist suspect, or do we think she could be lying?
I definitely appreciate. I've actually been writing this stuff down too. I think I still do have some of the emails about where she said, "Oh, I don't know how to do this," but I feel like it's a little bit of both because of all the additional training that I've had to give her, and I've actually had to tell her, "Hey, you might want to write this down," and her just not listening, and she's just not getting it. I'm like, if you didn't get it the first time, then maybe you do need some additional write it down or even actually walking her through the process. So that's actually something that I've been trying to think about too, whether it's like, she's incompetent or she just doesn't care. But I definitely appreciate it.
Just from what you just described to the female caller, she knows exactly what she's doing. she's getting away with it simply because if you're already training her or something and she's not writing it down, she's basically vampiring you on the job. And it seems to me like she's probably having fun. The reason why is because I'm pretty sure the conversation she's having with you about not being trained and not knowing what she's doing is completely different from the conversation she has with the white people when she's in their presence and hanging out with them. And it seems to me like she's getting away with playing this incompetent role because she's able to use you to waste time so that she can say, I'm not trained. But I'm pretty sure she's not telling these white people she's not trained because white people don't tolerate someone who can't do their job. So definitely it sounds to me, especially after Gus was like, yep, she's lying. She seems like she's lying. She seems like she's purposefully, because anyone with sense who wants to actually do a good job will write things down. If I go into the steps, I can't remember the steps, or maybe I'm missing a step here or there, then I'll say, hey, can we just take it a little slow? I'm going to get a notepad, write the stuff down. So that way I don't have to be a burden on someone else, and if she's continuing to be a burden and she's not taking proactive steps to help herself get away from having to utilize you as a crutch, and she's using you. And she's doing what white people do impeccably and in rare form simply because she's able to play it off against the white people. They're not getting at her, they're reprimanding her, and then your work is suffering because you have to spend all this extra time retraining this woman on a consistent basis. And that seems to me like you're being used. Thank you.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
To that caller, do you know if the company has like a training portal where all training documents or anything that you use to train someone is put in a portal where a person that was trained can go back and reference that instead of going back to you to get retrained?
Actually, yes, and that's the crazy. I won't even say it's crazy. I feel like it's definitely something to wear me down, because I've actually had to go back and tell her, hey, you need to pull it up in this system, pull up the training document in this system, and it's almost like I don't know if in her training that she didn't have to read through them or what have you, because there's very basic things that all of us had to do, and she's just not getting it, or she's just acting as if she's not getting it. The other thing is that the next step, hopefully I'll have an update, but I will be going, I will be trying to speak to my supervisor tomorrow about seeing if she can get her own work that is assigned to her, because that's actually one of my hopes that is going to happen, because if she's really incompetent as I feel like she is, then that'll show if she has to completely do the work on her own rather than just kind of piggybacking off some of my projects.
That's I just brought that up because I know at my plantation they always tell us to go back to that training portal if no one really has additional time to kind of assist, and that's what that portal is for. I would just let her know nicely in a professional way. Just refer her back to that training portal. That's what it's there for. Everyone here uses it, so you should use it as well. You've already trained her multiple times, and she's definitely abusing her abilities. Getting trained and coming back to you. She's definitely knows what she's doing.
All right. Well, I definitely appreciate it. I don't want to take up too much more time, but I definitely appreciate the suggestions.
For sure. There were 3 people that spoke simultaneously. We got our female caller, our caller who just spoke up. Greg, were you going to share as well?
Yeah. What's going on, Gus? And to all the callers. I just had some commentary on a manager of mine and a little incident that happened earlier today. So I have a manager. I work at a bank, so she just came in like 4 months ago. A white suspected white supremacist lady. She's about probably in her late 50s, early 60s. When she first came to the bank, she kind of went around, introduced herself to to everyone. So once she came up to me, I'm the only male in my department, and I'm the only black male in my department. I do work with other non-white victims, but the management, which is about 4 managers, 2 white women and 2 white males, but everyone else is non-white, with except for 2 other white coworkers. But everyone else is a non-white team. There's about 15 of us. So she comes around to me, and she before she introduces herself, and then the next line is, "Oh, you look like someone." So I get that a lot. Like, white people compare me of looking like Sammy Davis Jr., which is funny. So I thought that's what she was going to say, and I was like, "Oh," but I didn't come out. I was like, "Oh, I know what you're going to say, Sammy Davis Jr. I get it a lot. White people, whatever." But so she was like, "Oh, you look like the Jamaican track runner," and I was like, "Oh," and I was like, and then she, then kind of just goes into, she can't wait to work with me, and is excited about joining the team. So I just found that in an odd comment. So I had to look up. I didn't watch track over the summer, so I didn't quite know like who she was talking about, and so I looked the person up. And the only reason why she compared me to this Jamaican track star is because my hairstyle was similar to his. So I just found that to be a comment that was kind of like, man, comparing me to a Jamaican track star in the first when you first meet me. So a few weeks ago, the same manager, I'm quiet on the job. I plug in, I don't listen to music. I listen to the cows or listen to a podcast and some other stuff. Sometimes I don't play anything. So my codification for at least my white managers or white people to not come up to me or to engage me is that they think I'm listening to something, so they kind of bypass me. But a lot of times I'm not listening to anything, so I can listen to her conversations or to see, my surroundings. So she kind of like, "Oh, you're quiet. You're always plugged in and blah, blah, blah." So like 2 weeks ago, she was like, "Man, you're just quiet and sneaky." And I was like, wow, like, like sneaky, like, what, like sneaky, really? So I just found, another odd comment by her. And then just a few days ago, I had a meeting. She's a production manager, so, productivity. She brought me in the office. Before she brought me in, I was by her office or by her desk. So she was like, "Hey, come in. I know you want to come to me. So let me just, get you to come in so I can talk with you." Because previously she sent out an email telling people to come to her desk so she can go over something with them. I didn't come the day of. I kind of waited a few days, and I guess she felt like I should have came that same day. So she was like, "Yeah, you want to come to me, so let me just bring you in here right now." So she made a comment about my productivity, and she was like, "Well, you didn't quite make it this time. You wasn't quite there, almost close. Not quite a cigar, but almost close." So when she, said the cigar reference, I thought of Francis Cress Wilson, and I was like, I'm like, an odd comment again. So this is a manager, man, suspected white supremacist, white woman that, I'm going to just keep my eyes, on her, write down, all the comments that she does make. Yeah, that's her. So later on during the day today, I have a white coworker. We both came over at the same time. And our manager is a white woman, kind of like got really close and kind of started having her do a lot more stuff. So she's technically now like an assistant manager. So today she won an award, which is a big award throughout the bank. And my coworkers, which most of them are women, they're non-white. One of them, I was in my cube So she stood up because she was like, wondering what was the commotion that was going on. People were like clapping and stuff. So she was like, oh, okay, she got the award. So then she tapped my desk and was like, hey, get up, she got the award. And I was like, and I unplugged my headphones, which I wasn't playing anything, but, so I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, okay, cool, then I plugged back in because I really didn't care. But my coworker, she was like, what the F? As if like, why she get it? One of us could have got it. We do more work, than her. So I just kind of noted that, and they're actually really close. She would consider this white girl as a friend. So I was kind of like, why the jealousy if this is your so-called white friend? That was, kind of a thing that I kind of noted. We also have a coworker that's been on the job for 18 years, non-white victim, and she has never won one of these awards. So I just felt like this girl coming over when I came over like a year or two ago to kind of get close with the manager and then kind of get this accolade award where she's taking like a Las Vegas trip and money and, all type of stuff. And these other victims are kind of looking like, the white girl, she got the award. But yeah, so that's all I had, man. Workplace racism.
Wow. Spectacular. That number, just to the last incident, I've said this all the time, white people, they do not necessarily like other white people. I have seen tons of illustrations of that, and the white chick's response, this is supposed to be her homie, gets the award. This, what the hell? That lazy heifer? Why'd she get that? I have seen that exact same thing. Don't be confused and think that they won't work together to mess over you or any other non-white person, because they absolutely will. But that does not mean that they are in love with each other and think great. Not at all. This is just about terrorism and tackiness all day long. Now, for the white woman, your boss, I think that's interesting because I think someone just recently had talked about they were quiet on the job, and it was not, oh, you're just, a quiet little person and you're part of the team, you're welcome, we would forget you were even here. It's not that. It's you are quiet and devious and suspicious and sneaky. There's something criminal about you, and that's just standard operating procedure. I would just encourage, keep a little log of those type of things. When she compared you to, I assume this is Usain Bolt she's talking about, compares you to him, and then saying you're sneaky, I would just keep a little log, because that's so quick. That's something that you could write down. You could put that if you got, smartphone or whatever, your mobile device, you could just keep a log of that. Date, time, this is what she said. If you end up working there a year, 5 years, 10 years, whatever, you could end up having a long list of those types of comments to keep if they ever, try to come at you aggressively or, begin doing more layers of tackiness. You'll just have tons and tons. And that one comment in and of itself probably wouldn't do anything, but if you end up with a log over months, weeks, years, that can have a substantial impact. So I would just keep a little log of those types of comments. And if anything, I think it's good just to keeping you aware this is what it is. Dr. Frances Cress Welsing is right, because they're giving little cigar reminders and everything about how they're thinking that they're right. You're correct. You're around racists, and just to stay sharp with your codification. I love having the headphones in with no sound playing so that you can be aware of your surroundings. That is brilliant counter-racist codification. Let's see. It was 3 simultaneous. I think retired firefighter is the only one we missed out. Did you have commentary?
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Greetings, everyone. On some of the previous calls that I was able to catch, there was a male caller calls back that mentioned about how he changed his tune. I thought that was a great counter-racist strategy. As far as working on your voice tone when you're talking to another employee, in some cases it doesn't matter if they're white or non-white, and with an emphasis on firmness, but yet at the same time use the right vocabulary that would imply that I'm being polite. And in most cases, people get the message. The person that
you are relating to or talking to, they get the message. And it kind of like gives you some space from a lot of the foolishness that goes on the job. Workplace racism. Primarily, I don't have to deal directly with white people, although they're all white people at this particular high school. But the whole coaching staff is non-white black males, and I primarily deal, for the most part, with them, and especially with the head football coach. So some of the things that I listen to, I really don't have that direct issue. Although, just like any other job, there of course is racism, white supremacy that exists on the job. Recently, as most of the listeners know, that the team that I coach on won a state championship. This is actually the fifth experience that I've had with that. Along with it, some of the accolades that goes along with winning a championship is the team gets to ride on, and this is kind of ironic, rides on a fire truck through the Martin Luther King parade. And also they are given, amongst a lot of other things, championship quote-unquote rings. The retired firefighter is not going to ride on any fire truck, and I'm definitely not going to anything called a Martin Luther King parade for various reasons. I don't see nothing constructive and relevant about a parade, and the problem that this black male died attempting to change is still here. And then from the ones that I've went to in the past, many years ago, I don't see anything exactly constructive going on at these parades. To whereas it even gets so bad that there now is young people who get on ATVs and dirt bikes and literally ride through the entire realm of Miami-Dade County, somewhere in the vicinity of 50 to 60 bikes down the streets, just ripping and running up and down the streets. Now, mind you, one of the children that I coached died on one of these things, was killed on one of these things last spring. But no, I would not be riding on anybody's fire truck, and I would not participate in the parade, and I also will not accept a ring at all for obvious reasons. I would bet still today that there are some non-white people somewhere in the world who are the ones who have to go and risk their lives and pick up these shiny rocks, whether it's gold or diamonds or whatever. It can be copper as far as I'm concerned, and I wouldn't be interested in doing it, to make that kind of sacrifice. And I don't wear any jewelry anyway, as far as they're concerned. So no, and I did contact the head football coach and informed him that I would not be participating. That is not even why the retired firefighter gets involved as a football coach anyway, to get those type of accolades. That's not the reason why I do it anyway. So and he very clearly understood on it, and I just wanted to let him know, if he didn't see me, on why that why I wouldn't be there. So those are two things that just wanted to mention this week. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Retired firefighter, black self-respect. Awesome. Yes, sir.
Yes, greetings, Gus. Greetings, all the callers. Very constructive information this evening. I just want to share a few of my experiences on the open air plantation, which is known as self-employment in this part of the world. This is Lamine from KC. White welfare.
Kansas City, Missouri, or Kansas City, Kansas?
Kansas City, Missouri. Okay. But I go back and forth in between both of them. So, white welfare, full effect. I think when the caller previously spoke about her supposedly unaware or confused white coworker who needed to be walked through things, I'm just reminded of white welfare because I see it everywhere. Kamau Kambon speaks about, it's just white welfare. These people, I mean, the system works on them making money off of non-white people, but I'm reminded of that every day, and that caller I was reminded. I added some new code to my personal code, was not saying good morning. I've heard several non-white people, including people on this call in the cows, make note not to say good morning or good evening or good day, as opposed to just saying morning if they speak to white people at all. Very, very important that, for me, it's helped to keep my mind in the right frame of mind when I'm going about my day and not be distracted, because when non-white people, specifically black males, are distracted, or black females, I've had very terrible things generally happen. So being focused and trying to stay on task. I had two white males that brought me to a house for an estimate this week, or last week. It was, I guess, freezing outside. I hate the cold, and the house had no AC. It was kind of good. They'd in a black neighborhood, predominantly black neighborhood. There's something people like to call gentrification, which is happening in parts of the city. The white people are just basically taking their land back again because they never really gave it away. The two white males had me estimate this home, and they had me go in. The house is totally disgusting and just a wreck, and they tell me, hey, look, they want to get it all done. They tell me their budget's $35,000, so I take notes. They actually had 4 pages printed out for me of all the things they wanted to do. So I go home and put together over the period of the weekend, 3 days it takes me, probably about 6 or 7 hours, or 8 or so hours to put together the estimate. Well, their budget and what they gave me and what it would cost was nothing close. In fact, I'm very reasonable on my rates. In fact, some would even describe them as cheap, and my estimate was $60,000 for the total remodel, for all the things they wanted done, including some used equipment. I was sent an email in response. I called, and he didn't even answer the phone. He said he was in a meeting or something, but I'd never believe white people. He told me that he was over his budget, and he wanted to do it. He told me what his budget was. I believe he was practicing racism. I have learned something being self-employed, that white people lie often and about everything, and especially in the area of activity known as economics. When it comes to money, white people lie. Man, if supposedly non-white people lie to dodge bill collectors and we're bad tippers, as they say, as the example earlier shown, we don't understand how white people lie when it comes to abusing black people and non-white people, other non-white people, when it comes to money. So I mean, my personal, something I've added to my code in the past few months is I never give them, and I always assume they have the money, because collectively and individually, these people have the money. This white man who brought me to this house likely had access to millions of dollars if he wanted it. If he wanted it. And I will never sell myself short. It's bad enough we're getting paid literal slave wages to do work on our own account, but I would never give them an opportunity to get out. And I think that's something non-white people have to remember on interviews when they go in, and they ask them how much do you want to make? What do you think? Do not budge, do not blink. It helped me in the quote unquote corporate world, in that cesspool. and it helped me to be able to make a meager amount more money than I did whenever I wasn't confident about that. And I just want to remind the listeners about that. It also happened, these white men who invited me to his house for an estimate, he brought me to do this estimate. There was a gunshot, blood that was splattered on the ceiling. The house was previously known for selling drugs, and there was, on the top of the stairway, there was blood splattered on the ceiling. You could probably, if you're like a forensics or scientific person, you could probably estimate the trajectory, like how this person got shot. And they actually told me about that incident and how he was shot at the top of the stairs and the blood splattered up. It was just a reminder how non-white people, black communities, we suffer because of, and they thought it was just hilarious. They were just laughing, like, hey, a nigger got shot in the house, and it's funny, look at the story. And I'm sitting there thinking, my brother's over here, who knows what could have happened here, but it was because of the drugs that your uncle, your father, your brother probably helped bring into this country or is protecting overseas with a weapon. So, again, that'd be racist everywhere if you live in a system of racism, white supremacy, but keeping focus. Another thing I just want to share, I had a non-white male from the part of the world known as India had me go to his house for an estimate as well. December was a really, really bad month for me. I mean, horribly, depressingly bad month. And January has picked up very, very much. There's checks in the bank. I'm relatively excited, or just measuredly excited, because there was a lot of things that came through January, but December was extremely, really rough. So I was really hard up for work. I mean, everybody was scrambling contractor-wise because nobody wants to spend money during Christmas on patching a wall. They'd rather let water come through the roof. So this man from the part of the world of India, non-white male, invites me to his house to do some work. He's really excited, gets me over, I go to do an estimate. I close a lot of the business I do estimates for. So I'm really kind of confident when I go into people's houses and give them good numbers. He goes in and tells me that, I'm telling him he's at $7 to $10 a square foot for the tile. This man tells me he's got another non-white, quote-unquote, Mexican guy who could do it for $2 a square foot, which I know probably not many contractors on the phone. That's pretty much for free. I believe he was lying to me so that he would get me to do the work for essentially free. It's very upsetting because I know that as a black male, he would not pull that stunt if my name was Fletcher and I was white and I walked, and he wouldn't even pull that stunt with me. Like, and how do I know this? Because I do this so many times. I go through this, the anti-blackness and just the abuse by sometimes other non-white people, specifically towards black people, regardless of our demeanor, our color, our clothes, how we talk, is a constant reminder that the system must be replaced. And I did have another experience at the SPCA. Just briefly, I'll share. It was very trashy. I had to take my animal in I just recently got a new animal to protect my family from terrorists, white terrorists, and while I'm not around. So I got a little small animal, and I took her to the SPCA. Of course, it's all white people, supposedly all animal lovers, which I find a very strong link between white people loving animals and their aptitude to practicing racism. However, I go in, I take the dog. I recently purchased it from another trashy terrorist. Again, I'm actually shameful. My wife reminded me that it was very shameful to spend money on an animal, giving money to white people. I wanted a certain type of animal, however, it was a good reminder.
Amen.
Yeah, it was very tragic to give them money, and we try very much to minimize the money we give to dominators. But I did in this instance. Shame on me. And again, taking it to a white doctor, I couldn't find a black veterinarian. So again, more trashy behavior. I mean, we're constantly forcing this, but I walk in and they take the dog. Everybody's, oh, hey, cute dog. Well, the dog seems to has a diarrhea issue. What they end up doing, because they say the dog could have parvo, they quarantine me and the dog So they put us in another room and sanitized the room. I'm talking like bleach, scrub down, District 9, like just clean the room out and have me sitting in a warehouse. They have me in the warehouse portion of the building in the cold, waiting for the doctor to come see my animal, which they were fortunate they actually did send a doctor to see the animal because they were actually closed that day. I just really needed to bring the animal in to get checked. And they had us both in quarantine. And the woman the receptionist was like, oh, I have to go change my clothes to this dog. And I mean, besides the fact that it was embarrassing, just more trashy, terroristic behavior. I could hardly see them doing that to the white people who were in there, especially the woman who was in there previously, or the man who came in with a stray cat who was hissing, and they had to restrain in a crate. But I bring my dog in. They fear that me and my dog are bringing in the bubonic plague and quarantine us until they could, in such a crude fashion. Again, I just believe more trashy behavior. So they come and actually get my dog and take it back, which I felt really, really strange about. I normally don't let white people take liberties with me, specifically when it comes to things that I'm looking after or I'm trying to protect. They took the animal in the back, and I was like, wow, that was slow on my part to let them do that. Lord knows what they would do to that animal. Probably would give it a disease and give it back to me. The woman comes out with the dog and is holding it close to her chest, but it's almost as if she's in a position where she's kind of taking the dog, like the dog is so bad, do you really want this dog? Or I expected her to say at any moment, we're not going to give the dog back to you. Like I could just see it's a Doberman. I mean, white people love these dogs. They love this type of dog. They feel very, it's like it's our dog almost when you hear them speak about them. And it was almost as if I could have seen her just say, I'm not giving you this dog back. We're taking this dog away from you, as if they do with our children all the time, which in this case, I believe personally that white people see animals better than they see black children or black people at that. But anyway, so they give me the dog and they hit me with $100. I'm like, okay, great. We get this done. The next day I have to go back to actually get the vaccines for the dog, get the dog to get its shots so they could, protect it against this it has worms, has to eat worm and whatnot. The woman charges me the same amount, although the day before she told me she would reduce it based on the fact that I just came in and dropped $100. So the next day was $125, and she says, oh, it's $125. We don't discount anything. I show her a coupon I have from online. Oh, that coupon doesn't apply to this. I'm like, what do you mean it doesn't apply to this? It applies to everything. Oh, it doesn't apply to this specific situation. Very adamant. And I said, didn't you say you were going to discount it after I just came in and spent this money the day before? She says, oh, yeah, I have to discount it. She discounts it $5 and says that is the cost of the deworming. I said, is that the cost of deworming by itself? She says, no, but when it's in a package, it's totally trashy behavior. At this point, I just want to leave the place and just, I just want to leave. I want to get out of there. I ended up, paying their money, just giving them what they did, a constant reminder. This was brought on to myself in this situation because I went out and I purchased this animal, but it still gives the terrorists an opportunity to work on our minds. And of course, what happens to us, we get upset, we come home, and that just translates to our children, to our spouse, and it just continues in a domino effect. But I just want to share that with everyone. And I besides that, I had a calm week. The terrorism was reduced to a minimum, relatively peaceful. But I did want to share those with everyone. I'll take my call offline. Thank you.
Thank you, kindly. I was just going to say thank you kindly for sharing, and for Princess, she's called in, also in Louisiana, or although she might be Florida now, but where she has said, oh gosh, you just need to get a little hound and whatever. I'm not a people person, and I'm not a dog person either. Roz, you said you had a question or a comment?
Yes, I did want to give my observations, but I did have a comment and a question for the previous caller. And I wish you the best because I know that you go through a lot having to go into these houses and these building developments with these psychopaths. So I always think about you quite often. So I do wish you the best. But I was going to say in reference to to East Indians. I actually have a few in my family in Trinidad. And one thing that I always stress for Black people to keep in mind, that India has the most horrific caste system, which is basically racism, white supremacy, and their abuse of Black Indians is basically on par with what we've gone through in the Western Hemisphere, and it's still happening right now. So when you deal with them, and my wife actually worked for a few of them when she worked in the fashion industry and the manufacturing industry, and the attitude is the same. It's just this attitude that we're subhuman, we're less than them, and they from what I've seen personally, and from what my wife has seen, and other people who have had to deal with the caste system the way Indians practice it, they worship white people. So the closer you are to white, the better you're perceived and you're treated. The darker you are, they're going to mistreat you. They're going to lie to you. They're going to try and, just mistreat you and get extra money from you. It's the only Indians that I find that actually get along with Black people are Indians who understand their history and don't practice the caste system. In reference to the dog, I wanted to ask you if you chose the dog, or did the white terrorists actually give the dog to you that you ended up purchasing?
Very interesting that you asked that. I wanted to minimize the amount of money that I spent with the Dominator. They had other animal Dobermans in the litter that were more expensive. So I go to pick up the animal 3 hours away from home, from where I live, and they give me a small one, supposedly a runt. So they chose the animal that they gave me, which is, the animal that I have very sick, although the conditions, I went to their house, it was pretty disgusting, but I believe they gave me a sick animal. Again, of course, I have no doubt they were practicing racism, chose a sick animal to give to the Black guy. When they see me walk up to the door, they grab the sick dog and hand it over to me. And the owner kept texting me, a couple of days later, how's the dog, how's the dog? So I have no doubt in my mind. This is, fool me once, shame on, fool me twice. It's not happening again. But I believe they were practicing racism by intentionally giving me a sick animal.
That was my immediate thought when you said the condition of the dog and you had to take it to be seen, because the runt of the litter is usually the least healthiest. That's the one that's not able to access the breast of the female dog as readily as the stronger ones in the litter. And what I found is, because you did choose the cheaper dog, and also they were allowed to choose the dog, more than likely that dog has been carrying that sickness for a while, and they were probably barely keeping it going, keeping it alive. And then, like you said, as soon as you came, they're like, oh yeah, we can get this to the nigger, and it's okay. I don't know if you're close to Chicago. My mind is just fuzzy as regards to the location of Kansas City, Missouri versus Chicago, but there's a Black male that I'm actually really cool with. We build quite regularly, and he actually sells Cane Corsos, and they're impeccable dogs. So the ones that he sells, he breeds them and everything. I did know at least one Black male that's in the Chicago area that actually sells Cane Corsos that are just beautiful dogs, and they're extremely powerful and extremely loyal and easy to train. So I'm not a dog person either, but I thought I'd throw that out there. And just to get into my workplace observations, so man, this was a doozy of a day today. I talked previously about my pay situation. So far it's looking good. I'm still keeping an eye on every check. So if anything changes, I will give you the development. But it seems like monetarily everything panned out. So I don't have any complaints with that at the moment. But I talked previously about a Black female that was dealing with a manager just making terroristic sexual comments about her shape and the fact that she's very petite and she can, eat a lot of food and not gain weight. And she had made comments to her in regards to that, and she tried to escalate it to HR, and essentially nothing was done because the white terrorist is the manager and she's white and it's a racist company and they're all racist. So she didn't really get any recourse. And today, she came in late. My coworker, the Black female, came in late because she had a problem at home. There was a leak in her sink, and she had to wait for her supervisor to come to the apartment to assess the situation. And she's dealing with, horrific situation with the landlord. So it took her a while to get to work. So this manager, and her practice has been, after the issue was escalated to HR, her practice was to basically stay away from this black female and say as little as possible, maybe just hello and goodbye. And other than that, my coworker made a conscious choice not to say or do anything in her vicinity or say anything to her, and she made a conscious choice to stay away from her. So today, after this situation happens in her house, the manager beelines for her after she gets to work. And she starts telling her own story of some situation she had in her apartment, and she's just having this conversation. So my coworker is trying to keep it as short as possible. So she just doesn't like the woman at all, and she was cordial, but I could sense that she just didn't want to be anywhere near her, which I totally understood. So they had this conversation, and then the woman, after she had the conversation, there wasn't anything that the woman said of a questionable nature. But after the manager left, I said to her, I purposefully stood here because I do what you said, Gus, and I do this regularly. I'll have my headphones in my ears, but I don't have it on so I can hear what's going on, and I can catch anything I need to catch and deal with anything if I have to deal with it in that moment. So I said to her, I said I was listening to everything that was said because I said I know the history. We dealt with it. And I said if she did try any slick stuff, you would have had a witness here. And she just laughed and she said, thank you. I said, no problem. I just want you to understand, she sits in the corner. I sit right next to her. And anyone who has to talk to her at all would have to pass me to do so. And I would be literally in earshot of any conversation that she has. So I purposefully was listening to the conversation just to make sure the supervisor didn't say anything, terroristic, that at least she would have me to corroborate. Yes, I was sitting there, whatever this was or whatever the case may be. So that worked out. Now, after work, and we always talk about traveling, to and from work, and I bring up quite a bit the drug and liquor habits of these psychopathic mutants all the time. So I'm traveling home today. This has nothing to do with liquor, though, but sobriety would be best. Traveling home, train is extremely crowded, and I usually get on the last car because when I get off at Penn Station, it's the easiest way for me to get to my train to head into Jersey. So the train is extremely crowded. I end up having to take my backpack off so I can fit on the train because it's just packed with people. And as I get to the second station after I pull away from my station, I have to step off the train to let people get off before I can get on. So I step off and make room for them. And then eventually I step on the train. So there's this white female who basically starts shoving me. Like from behind, I'm feeling this small hand pushing me. So I literally stop, and I just have the look of death on my face. And I look at her, and I said, don't effing push me. And I didn't yell. I said it in a very calm tone, but I said, don't effing push me. Don't effing touch me. You be. And she made a beeline to get as far away from me as possible. So I was good. I looked around to make sure there was any issues I had to address with anyone else on the train. There were none, of course. So I went to where I needed to go to get closer to the door. So as I get there, so not many people heard, but I know the people that were in our immediate vicinity heard what I said to her. So, and she literally got as far away from me as possible. I was like, good, and don't touch me. So when I get to the other side of the train where I was actually waiting to get off, to get off at my stop, there's a white man standing there. So I'm sitting there minding my business, and I'm sensing that he's staring at me. Now, mind you, I'm a person who, has totally transformed my life, but I used to run the street. So I normally used to have a horrific temper, and I was very quick to get physical if I felt like someone was violating or being, quote unquote, disrespectful in any way. So as I'm sensing this guy staring at me, so I look at him. And at first I just kind of glance because I'm just sensing it. So I glance and then I just go back about my business, but I still have my headphones off. So then I'm noticing that he's staring. So then I start staring at him, and I give him the look of death. And I'm looking at him, and I was not going to turn my face away from his face until he dropped his eyes. So I'm grilling him, and eventually his eyes hit the floor. So after that, he looks away, he looks down, then he closes his eyes. Then he opens his eyes, he looks at me again. So then I grill him, and it didn't take but 2 seconds. And then for the rest of the train ride, he leans against the door and he just keeps his eyes closed. He refuses to even look in my direction anymore. So when we get into the train station, he is getting off like I'm getting off, but the train is still packed with people. So I purposefully let him go first. And then I got off the train, and then I just made sure that I kept an eye on him. He didn't pay any attention to me. He just tried to get to where he was going, and that's it. And I just wanted to toss that out there because white people study us all the time. White people will try to test us in different ways, whether it's shoving you on the train, whether it's, looking at you or just trying to intimidate you or anything of that nature. And I'm extremely battlefield aware when I leave my house. So, like I said, safety is always number one for me. So I'm very perceptive, and I keep a stock of where I am and who's around me. So I made sure I did so. And he obviously didn't want anything once we got off the train, and I just kept going. But I just wanted to throw that out there because these are the forms of psychological stress, psychological terror, and agitation that these creatures try to put us through every day. And sometimes it can be harder than others to deal with these sort of terroristic activities. Epigenetics has made it abundantly clear that they make us sick. So we have to strive for that mental health. Again, I'm not scared of any white person. I'm wary, which means I don't trust them. For those that do fear them, I understand it's a healthy thing. It can sometimes save your life and be a very protective thing, so I get it. So there's no judgment against any other black person who doesn't function like I do. But I just want to throw that out there, black mental health, and just be aware because these people will try anything at any given time. Thank you, and I'll meet my line.
Are there people that we have not heard from at all? People that we... Oh, okay. So there are a lot of people that we have not heard from at all. So we'll try and get cracking, make sure we're not missing people. Folks that have not shared at all.
Can I be heard?
We will nab Chantel first, and then we'll get everybody else.
Can I be heard?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I wanted to share an observation. This is similar to what another caller had mentioned in regards to Indians with them practicing with like the caste system. I work for a company, the CEO is Indian as well as the vice president. I'm the only black person that works at my job. So it is very uncomfortable for me because I feel like it seems like they're only hiring white people. I was tempted to even ask. I wasn't sure if I should or not, but I was tempted to ask that I noticed that I'm the only black female here. Has any other candidates applying for the job, or have any other like black candidates apply for a job? But I didn't do that. I wasn't sure if I should do that or not. But other than that, that was something I noticed. Currently, my situation, we just moved into a new building. We're in a temporary space for right now because above us, our new floor is being set up for us. Currently, the space I'm in right now is very, very open. The space I was in before, I was in a room with 2 white males. Now, everybody is sharing the same space. There's no wall, there's no cubicle. Everybody's sharing the same space. And my area where I sit is right by the door. So when everybody comes in, I'm right there. So if they say hi, I usually don't say hi. So it's very uncomfortable for me right now. And I had asked my boss, how long are we in this space for? And he said 2 months. So I'm currently coping with that situation. Another thing to mention is we hired a new person for my department for support. He's a white male. And currently he's been asking me a lot of questions. He's been trying to do a lot of small talk with me. I've been trying to not get involved in conversation with him. But I kind of need advice in terms of, and I've heard some things that people have mentioned, but in this situation, should I ignore him? Or I don't know what to say to him.
Can you give it to us again, just so I can make sure I'm clear, like what he's doing exactly?
He's just asking me like, oh, what are your plans for this weekend? And asking me, do you want gum? And I think this is like the 3rd time today I said, no, thank you, I'm fine. He's like, you sure? I'm sure. It's just really annoying. Because in the space I was in before, I would be listening to my music and doing my work. Can't do that because my CEO is practically right behind me on the left-hand side, further behind. So everybody's in the same space. So if my boss, if there was something that happened in like with a customer or something, everybody can hear you. If there's something that the boss needs to talk about, I mean, you have a conference room, but he's talking to you about it right there. Everyone can hear you. So it's just a very unnerving situation for me, especially as a black person, because it's like everybody's looking at me like, you know, because I usually don't talk. I usually do my work. So everybody's like, oh, is she going to talk? Or, you know, and whatnot. So it's been very unnerving for me. I don't want to come off being rude, especially with the new person. I'm helping him out, but he's doing a lot of small talk. How to go about telling him, hey, like I was thinking about telling him, hey, you know, I'm trying to get work done, but he's going to be asking me every single time. So I don't know if I should go to my boss and do that, or if that's something I should just do myself.
I think just yourself, just letting them know, hey, you know, you can speak. You don't have to be this courteous, but just, hey, I have a lot of assignments to work on. I just don't have time to talk right now. You know, thank you for, you know, if it's high or whatever it is, but I would just make that clear. And, you know, if he has a problem with that, hey, gladly. Call me into the office and let me know that it is a problem to tell someone that I have a lot of assignments to do and I need to get back to my work. I don't have time to do small talk right now.
Yeah, I'm just going to have to do that. But it's crazy because if I do that, everyone is right there. Even my CEO is right there. So everyone sees. So it's like, it puts me in a position where it's like, everybody's looking like, oh, does she not want to talk to him? Like, it's not like a problem to, and this is the thing with the environment, it's not a problem to small talk as long as you're doing work, but I'm someone who don't want to I'm not small talking with you. I'm doing my work. I don't want to talk at all. So to them, if he's talking to me and I'm ignoring him, it makes it look like something's up. It's like I'm put in a position, especially since everybody's there, it's like I'm forced to say something. So I don't know how to go about the situation because my CEO is literally right there. Everyone can see what is going on. Like today, for example, I came into work. I was annoyed about something. When I was in lunch, I was talking to someone on the phone. I was annoyed about something. So I came in, I was doing my work, and he just comes off saying, oh, I thought you were, he's like, oh, you lied. I'm like, what are you talking about? And I didn't understand what he's saying because I'm coming in, I'm about to do my work. I don't understand. He's being really overly sarcastic. And I'm someone, I can't deal with sarcasm, especially not with white people. So he came in, he was like, well, I came in, he was like, oh, you know, you said you lied. I'm like, what are you talking about? Because I'm just coming off like that. He's like, oh, well, you said you were coming in, you were coming back to lunch at 12:30. I'm like, okay, I'm here. And he just kept going with it, and my boss noticed that, so he wasn't sure as to what was kind of going on because everyone is right there. Even my CEO's there, so he sees it. There's no privacy. So it's like if we were in the room, no one would have known about the situation. Now everybody knows. So it's like they're waiting to see if I crack or something. It's like really annoying. It's really annoying. So my boss came to me and asked me, he's like, is everything okay? It's fine. It's just, you know, I'm just coming into work. I'm just trying to do my work. Like, too much sarcasm. Too much sarcasm. It's like, just stop. It's way too much sarcasm. Like, I'm not going to be sitting here arguing with you as to what time I came in lunch. Why are you even asking me? He did it again this morning. Oh, why are you here early? I can't be here early? What am I? I'm a black person, so I'm supposed to be coming to work late? And the other white guy that was there, it was just him and them there. And I came off about it. I mean, how am I supposed to react to that? I have no idea how to react to that situation. Because he's actually coming at me in a very, like, aggressive manner. But I don't know if he's being sarcastic. You know, it's like...
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
You were, and correct me if I'm wrong, you were mentioning two cases. In that case with that person needs to get from you a prepared statement directly to him about the behavior as far as what as far as explaining what you come to work for, and that has nothing to do with me coming to work. I'm not going to have any private conversation or conversation involving something other than what I am here to do, which is the task that are laid out for you as far as within your field of employment. Period. As far as that's concerned, you're going to have to not care about who is listening.
Yeah.
You know, I understand your reluctance because of the physical situation that you are faced with. But if it's not going to change anytime soon, you have to deal with this situation right now, because it's only going to get worse. You know, as far as from my experiences on something like this, and speak to that person directly. I wouldn't even necessarily get to it to whereas I'm going to have a meeting with my supervisor on the issue, because a lot of times the only thing that does just escalates it in a direction that's not going to be to your best interest. But deal directly in a courteous but firm manner with that person, that the only conversations we're going to have is going to have to do with my input into performing my duties on this job, and that's it.
Yeah. Should I know my question? Should I be saying this? Well, obviously, should I be saying this to him? Like, how do I do this? Because I can't do it right. Everybody's right there. So.
My suggestion, I wouldn't have a meeting with him, and even going back to kind of what Mr. Fuller said about he thinks it's just going to be increasing incidents of white people just doing things to get on your nerves, just to get us upset or emotional, like the male caller who shared a while back where it was a white woman threatened to violently strike him on the job. And I don't think he said they had a press conference or a meeting or anything. He went, we are going to minimize contact. I think he said he changed the tone that he used in talking to that white woman to make it very clear. There's no joking. There's no nothing. And I'm going to make sure that we're never in physical proximity for you to do anything to me. With that white guy, I wouldn't have a conversation. I wouldn't have a meeting. When you come in and it's, whoa, what are you doing here? I'm just here. I don't care what his name is. We'll just say Bob. I'm just here to work, Bob. And I would have the whole office, so that everybody's very clear. There's not going to be a back and forth, an investigation, and it would be the same statement. If you had, what? But you don't normally come in. What are you doing? I'm just here to work, Bob. And go right about but he would be on ignore from that moment forward. And then if it's some pressing issue, I'm just here to work. I thought I made that clear. I'm just here to get my work done. I don't have a problem. I don't have a concern. I don't know what this even has to do with why Bob is, investigating my comings and goings. And now, if I'm supposed to report to Bob, then you all should let me know that. But if that's not my job duty, I'm just here to work. And I think if you can do that, short, nothing to say, no conversation, and make that known for the end. I would keep in mind too, even though your situation with the move is temporary, I think enough folks have shared white people are snooping and listening in anyway. So you should pretty much perform anytime you're on the job as though you are being listened to. You just got it right in your face where it's, we are all looking and listening in, but you should perform like that anyway. That would be my suggestion. It wouldn't be a conference. It wouldn't be a meeting. I would just have one sentence response, and that's it. We have nothing else to say unless it's something work related.
Yeah, so even if there's everybody there, just say it.
What's wrong? Yeah, I'm just here to work. Okay. That's great. Now everybody knows I'm just here to get my work done.
Now, this kid, I can't see. I don't know if he has ADHD. I don't know what.
He might just be practicing racism just to annoy you.
I feel like it's an underlying thing. I really do.
There was a question. Hang on one second, because there was a person who had a question. The person who said they had a question.
Yes, I did have a question. I wanted to ask, how do you feel that you're treated by the actual owner and the supervisor? If I'm not mistaken, you did say they're of East Indian descent. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and how do you feel that they treat you? Do you feel that before this guy got here, did you feel that you had a functional, decent relationship as far as a work relationship with them, or did you feel like the caste system thing was just coming into play in that situation before this person arrived?
It had always came into play when I arrived. I mean, I just recently found out from my boss that the only reason why they hired me is because they wanted a replacement from the other guy that was there. It wasn't more so of my skills that can bring to the company. It was more of just a replacement. And I don't like the idea of that, because that tells me that you don't really want me here in terms of what I can bring to the table, if you know what I mean. So I'm just being replaced with it, you know?
Yes, and it made me think, because when dealing with the whole caste system mentality, this white person, now that he's injected himself into the situation that you are in, he obviously was, because they're like racist antennas. They just suck up that energy and they jump right in, and they obviously understand the dynamic of that office. So now he wants to play pseudo supervisor, and I think Gus gave you, and the firefighter father gave you impeccable advice. I would do it right there in front of everyone, because he's trying to get attention, and if you take it to a meeting kind of a situation, what it's letting him know is that he's getting to you in a way in which he's making you feel acutely uncomfortable. Whereas if you just address it in that moment, short to the point, and you're on to the next, you're not being rude, you're not being disrespectful, and everybody in that room is aware that she is not being rude. She's trying to do what we pay her to do. So there's no further explanation. They're there to bear witness to what's happening. So if he continues to harass you, or he continues to do things that, agitate you or divert your attention from doing the job, then at that point you can say, well, I've talked to him 2 or 3 times. You guys were all standing here. I'm trying to do my job. And he's, asking me these questions as if I'm his supervisor. And like Gus said, if I'm now answering to him, please let me know. But if that's not the case, I just want to do my job, make it a cordial environment, a functional, non-dysfunctional work environment, and just go home at the end of the day and leave it at that. But I think that's impeccable advice. And my African, Indian, Trinidadian relatives, I speak to none of them. There's only one uncle that I speak to out of all of them. And the rest of them, they're all his brothers and sisters. I don't deal with them because they function with that same caste system mentality. And they are what we call Douglas, which are mixed race, African, so-called mixed race, but East Indians and Africans together. And ultimately, I know what that feels like from a personal standpoint, and it's highly uncomfortable. So I do wish you the best.
Hang tight, Shani. I wanted to make sure we nab some of our other people we have not heard from at all. People that have not spoken at all, you should speak now.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
How you doing, Gus T and all the listeners? Proud of the show and what you're doing here. This is X from Alabama. I'm a first-time caller. I work at a school in Alabama. It's lily white, let's say. And there's only 2 black employees there, people put up. And I recently moved, and I asked them to leave my check at the desk. So I didn't forward my mailing address right away, and they did that. The person in charge of that.
Sorry about that.
On the 3rd month, she decided to mail it to the old address. And then she gave me a telephone call and said, somebody was trying to cash my check at a pawn shop. So I asked her, well, why did you send it to the old address? And she didn't answer that question. She just said, well, I'm going to reissue the check and leave it at the desk. So I let that go. And December 9th, I sent her an email with my new address because I wanted to avoid any complications as Kwanzaa was coming up. And sure enough, 21st, I hadn't heard from her, so I sent an email and asked her, had she received my new address and the invoice with my new address on it, and she acted like she didn't understand what I was talking about, and it once again sent my check to the old address, even after she had to cancel it the month before, and it was just complications. So I went to the director of the school, and I gave him all the information, sent her all the emails, and the director said, well, I know her, and I'm sure it was just a clerical mistake. But here's the glitch. The director's only been there for 4 months since school started. I've been there for 8 years, and I don't know how she figures she knows this lady. I've been putting up with this stuff for years. Anyway, the bottom line is nobody's giving me an explanation, and they think that it's like everything's okay and squashed, but I'm pretty upset about it because it kind of ruined my holiday and my, chance to do what I want to do with the holiday. And I just got that particular check on the 9th of January. So I really see the workplace racism, how they try to cover each other's back. This lady doesn't even know this lady. I believe she's a racist, the lady who did this with my check. And I'm still waiting for an explanation from the director of the school.
That sort of pay disparity thing is constant, where somehow the check isn't there or they've botched the address. That sort of thing is common behavior, and then justifying it. Well, oh no, I'm sure she didn't do this on purpose, and this is just an error. I'm sure she did everything, and we'll get it resolved. I would number one, I would assume that they did that probably on purpose. To mess up the holiday. I think everyone is well aware of December, and people generally have plans, travel plans, and purchasing, and all of that. That just sounds like the type of thing that they would do to just try to make difficulties for you at that time while you're trying to enjoy your holiday and get other things done in your life. Where is it at now? If they're saying that the check, someone tried to cash it at a pawn shop, like where are they at in the resolution process now?
No, I got that check that they tried to cash at the pawn shop. This is the thing that happened a month before.
Oh, okay.
So the next month, you would figure she would know better than to send the check back to that address again, but she did it again. So now I'm like, I went to the director and told the director all these things, and she's still telling me she knows this lady, but this director's only been on the campus for 4 months. Now here's the thing: when I first went back to work this year, a lot of our people had gotten killed over the summer by these police. So I finally posted on social media, which I shouldn't have done. I don't usually do it. But I posted because I'm an ex-Marine. I said, I'm tired of all this killing our men, women, and children on the street. I called for fellow Marines to take a stand, and we could take care of these punks in about 5 minutes. I said that on social media. So they called me in and told me, that was a little violent. They can't have me making those type of statements. I have children who follow me on social media, and it could jeopardize my employment there. She's from the East Coast. She said, but I want you to know that I'm going to deal with the abject racism on this campus. So I figured this is an opportunity for her to deal with it, but she's not.
Yeah, particularly with that might have just added to it. Like, this nigga, who does this nigger think he is? And on here, social media, I think you already stated you knew that was probably not the best decision to make. I would concur. I said for everyone, particularly if your people that you work with can see your social media account or what have you, that is just a horrendous idea. Even if they can't, that's just a horrendous idea all the way around. You're just asking to put yourself in a situation where you will be subjected to greater mistreatment with that sort of commentary on social media under any circumstances. But to me, it just seems like they're doing all of this deliberately to practice racism and to make things difficult for you. At this point, I seriously doubt they're going to do anything to reprimand her. I would be more focused on, are they going to be required to send you more paychecks in the future?
Yes.
Okay. That's where I would be at in terms of this needs to be resolved permanently. Like, I would not even be on the punishment or reprimanding her. This has happened twice. It's happened on consecutive occasions now. This can never happen again. So what procedure or what steps are we going to take to make sure that we get this problem resolved permanently? Because I'm sure that this cannot be the case, that you all are this incorrect about everybody else's paychecks and having stuff just going all over the place and people trying to forge the check and what have you. So what are we going to do to make sure that this never happens again? That's where I would be at. And even maybe have your own suggestion about how to resolve the situation if you can think of something that will keep this from happening in the future.
Well, I appreciate that, Gusty, and I'll mute my call at this point. And I really thank you for what you're doing here, and keep it going. Thank you.
For sure. Folks have suggestions on that. Just hang tight. I want to make sure we get everybody who we have not heard from. Other folks that we have not heard from at all. You should go ahead and speak now if we haven't heard from you at all.
Can I be heard?
Yes, ma'am.
Greetings, everybody. I will try to be brief. I have a couple.
Sorry about that. Someone was on speakerphone, I think. Not you. You're good. You're good.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure. All right. I wanted to talk about a couple of things, a few observations, and then a couple of experiences, and I will try to be concise here. Tomorrow is my last day at my job, and so pretty much everyone knows now. And I'm contracted. This is MA, also 1842 out here in DC. And so the way that contracting works is I just provide the service, but the companies talk to each other. Like I'm supposed to be just very easily replaced. The benefit of contracting in the eyes of a company is that they do not have to deal with all of the HR kind of stuff, and if someone is sick or providing insurance and all of those kinds of things. So there's an entire etiquette to how this is done. I did my part the professional, correct way, because I will say this, when you do things the correct way, whatever the correct way is for you and for whatever situation, you can watch how whites have to reposition themselves or try to regain some sort of power or power play or a power move or something like that. So, I've told them that I'm leaving. I've put it in writing. Thank them for the opportunity. This has been fantastic. I will make sure, all the whole shebang. So the property manager decided to reveal to me he decided to tell me that they don't want to continue the contract if I'm not going to be there. That's improper and incorrect. I have nothing to do with that, and you're never supposed to talk about that kind of stuff with me, and they never have. So I didn't know what to do because my company it's owned by a white male, but most of its employees at the management level, HR level, and just us concierges are black, and non-white, specifically black. And so my account manager is black, the president of the company is black, all the people that I deal with at my company are black. Now, you're not supposed to tell me that, and he knows that, and so my initial reaction, because I didn't expect that one, was, well, I'm just going to let y'all handle that. I have nothing to do with that, so whatever. But I thought about it, and I was like, well, what should I do? So I slept on it, and then I called my account manager, and I told him, and I said, I felt that was improper and incorrect, and he agreed, and that I would much rather he have that conversation, or if they have a meeting or whatever, be more prepared than to think that the person they brought in to interview would get the job or they would keep the contract. I felt that providing him with that information gave him a heads up and better prepared him to know that the contract was ending, because he gets some money from that contract too. So I felt much better after that. And I felt that was better. I'm not going to, I'm going to reveal their level of tackiness. Everyone knows that you don't do that. I want to state again that I think it's very, very important to have a very clear separation between your work life and your personal life, especially if your assignment or mission is to become far more informed about racism and white supremacy, and to replace the system of racism and white supremacy with a system of justice. I think that any crossover, it should just be a very clear line of demarcation. So everyone wants to know where I'm going, and nobody knows. Like I said, even the people who think that they're very close to me, I am exchanging information. I have built networks with these people, or I've been networking, and perhaps I've been thinking maybe I'll just make a professional LinkedIn, and we can maintain our professional relationship. There's no need for me to lose contact with all of these people who could potentially be helpful in the future, but they don't need to know what I'm doing to do that. And so that's been very constructive for me. And what it has, because I've had to do it over and over, repetition is key. I think as we codify our behavior, I'm new to codifying my behavior. That's something that I'm learning. And this experience has allowed me to do it repeatedly. No, thank you. I'm not going to do it. And with a variety of different people, so people that I don't like or people who I do like, I still don't want to share that information. So having a variety of ways of expressing a particular code, which is no, or whatever it's going to be. I want to say out there for folks who may not, who might be new to working and stuff like that, and something that I've noted for myself, that whites notice any and all changes in behavior patterns, all of it, whether you get quiet or you start talking a lot, or you're happy or you're depressed, or you stay away from them or you spend a lot of time, whatever it is, they all of it is noted by white people, but also noted by non-white, specifically Black people. Now, why that's important for me in this situation is it allowed me to realize, like, one thing, the more informed I become, I feel the more potent I become. Not necessarily that I can hire anyone or give anyone money, but the higher the level of my Black self-respect, the more clear I can be in articulating information about racism, white supremacy, the more information I have to talk to people in a variety of ways. Like, sometimes I don't know much about sports, but sometimes knowing a little bit about sports means that I can talk to some males who may not want to talk about it, but when I put them on and I'm like, did you look at it like, and just, or if it's sex or politics or education, like being informed about racism, white supremacy in all areas of people activity makes me a more potent person to talk to other victims of racism, white supremacy, even in the workplace, because it's not so much from an impassioned, emotional place, more so from an informed place with news articles and things like that that I can share with people. But also, because non-white, specifically Black people, are also observing the behavior, how I respond, it's like it's modeling behavior. And I've watched how other non-white, specifically Black people, have begun to emulate that behavior as well, and how they're addressing whites. So if they're around me and a white person approaches me with some type of energy I don't feel like dealing with, and I, in my codified response, like respond to it, then when that person is gone, I turn to the Black people and I say, well, yeah, you see how they did that? We couldn't even have a conversation without them, getting glitchy, and this is why, and da-da-da-da. So the next time I'm actually observing them model that behavior. So I think that, it doesn't throw the system completely off balance right away, but it feels good. And in the workplace, it makes me feel more capable of doing something, and also making me see how the system can be replaced with a system of justice. Like, I can't sit and with a speakeasy and like tell all this information that everyone's going to hear. But if someone can see that I'm doing something that seems constructive and productive, even like going to the gym, being fit, eating healthy, like I'm not telling people to do that. But if I'm talking about it or engaging in it, and it's like evident that it's working in it, and I'm, collected, I'm calm, I'm able to maneuver and make moves, then other people see it, and it changes the situation. There was a particular situation, and for me it was just a little sad. I shared a story about a Black, I believe he was a Secret Serviceman, but this one is a Black FedEx courier who wanted to know, I'm in the red zone or hard barrier of this inauguration that's coming, so there's a lot of hoopla about who can enter the building and who can exit the building, and whether people can park or whether we're open, and all this other kind of nonsense. And anyway, he's Black, so he wanted to know, well, not because he's Black he wanted to know, but he is Black, and he wanted to know what days we were open. I double-checked with property management. Property management was like, look, well, it's going to be really difficult to get here Thursday and Friday, so, so I took that to me like, look, take it off. You don't have to come here. So I went and I told him, I was like, look, we don't know who all is going to be here, so people can't sign for the packages. You can just come on Monday if you want. You don't have to come deal with this, because it's going to be very difficult to get cars in this area. So they hear me say that to him, and they come out of their office, and they're like, well, wait a minute, it's here, and I'm like, well, I already explained this when I asked you the question, but they pressure him. I observed the way that they pressure him into still coming Thursday and Friday, even though all the roads for this building are blocked off for packages that they don't receive, for companies they don't know if are actually going to be open. And just instead of letting him just say, you know what, I'm going to take the easy way, I'm going to just chill, this is going to be stressful, because it's not just like empty roads. You're talking about roads closed to allow for there to be thousands upon thousands of people, and he's going to have to walk around with a cart carrying the stuff, and not even, I didn't know if he could foresee it or not, but I watched how they came and their posturing and all of that stuff. Like, so much of communication is nonverbal. Paying attention to that kind of thing is extremely important, because sometimes it's not what they're saying, it's how they're saying it and how they're posturing around us that make us feel like we have to respond a certain way all the time. And I just thought that was so unfortunate. How much time have I? Okay, I've been talking for a while. If there's time later, I have more. Oh, wait, I'll tell this one because it's the most important. And then the rest of it, if I can get to it. When I first began participating in the workplace racism, I shared a story about a security officer and I who were not able to get along. And I had to note take, and it was, I guess I was a snitch. And of course, it didn't sit well with me. And it never sat well with me. It didn't take workplace racism for me to get that. But I'm leaving, like I said, and I didn't want that to be the end of the conversation. And I had run into him a couple times. So we had spoken a couple times before, and it's been totally cordial. Like, we're both cool, both doing well, and all that shebang. So, but I contacted him and apologized and acknowledged, like, my foolishness and my folly in that. And what ended up happening is we had probably one of the most healing, open conversations with each other about how we were both victimized in that situation, and both feeling like we had to fight each other to keep our jobs, and what that did to us and how it made us feel, and how really because neither one of us, like, we both he didn't want to be a security officer, I didn't want to be a concierge. So we were both in these, like, menial positions that we didn't want to be in, and we're taking that frustration out on each other, and we were able to have a really, really good conversation. And when it ended, I felt so much better. And I was just like, that's probably the best thing I've done. Like, that experience right there, being able to, really feel what happened in that whole thing. And so we're cool now. And I'm happy about that. So thank you all for listening.
Spectacular. Awesome example of Black self-respect. People that we have not heard from at all, you should speak now.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Good evening. Hello? Good evening. Hello?
We can hear you.
Go ahead, sir. Okay. Good evening to all the callers. Yeah, very, very interesting stories. Black self-respect, of course. I had a few stories of my own. I had to call off the plantation the day I needed a mental health day. As I said, working at the hospital is definitely affecting my mental health, as I see and deal with a lot of things that, as a counter-racist, I don't want to see and deal with. It's a traumatic situation at times. When you constantly see Black people on the worst day of their life, usually when you're in the hospital being admitted or something, it's not a good reason, and you also have to deal with some of the worst Black people. I'm starting to see how serious the mental health is affecting our community, because there's a lot of Black people I see that are definitely in need of some type of treatment, and it's it's heartbreaking. This last couple of weeks ago, I was at work, and I saw two Black people, and they looked very upset, and they were walking frantic, and they were in an area that I was shocked. I worked overnight, so I was shocked that these two Black people were in this area, and they weren't employees. So, when they saw me, they stopped me, and they explained to me that their daughter was just shot. She was 15 years old, and they were trying to get into the ICU, and they wanted me to give them access. And I had to explain to them, which, really, killed me, but, I'm not allowed to grant them access to that area without security, because, when I went through orientation, there's been instances where people were shot, and the shooter also ended up at the hospital at the same time, and they had to keep the family separated. And so I didn't know what the circumstances was behind their daughter being shot. I didn't know if they blamed someone that might have been with her for her being shot, and that person's also in there. So I explained to them that the protocol was for them to post security. Of course, they were very upset. They felt like I was not helping them. I was, I have a 15-year-old daughter myself. but I had to follow the rules, or it could have potentially, cost me my job. But just seeing the black people come in with serious, I guess, mental health issues and also homelessness, and the way they're taking care of themselves and the odor, it's just really sad. And at a certain time, I have to clear out the emergency room so I can, clean it up. And all of the people that's hanging out in there, all strap hangers, people that decided that it was probably warmer at the hospital than being outside. And I don't really feel comfortable calling security to kick out black people and put them back out on the cold streets. So, in the way the security removes them is very inhumane. So, I decided that I'll work around them and let them stay, instead of informing security that there's still people there. And, I'm trying to do the right thing, or trying to show a little black self-respect. But these people will curse you out if you're walking too close to them. So you also got to be careful because of the mental health issue that black people have. But I just if there's one person in the ER trying to sleep, everyone has to go there, because I'm not just I would sacrifice a few blacks to get rid of one white. But other than that, it's just a lot of heartfelt things I see and hear and deal with. I can hear when people have passed away. And what I've noticed is when young black people pass away, if they're young, immediately we get the calls to have the OR room prepared for them. So because they're about to deorganize them, take all of their organs and things to put into white people. And I've also noticed that when young white people expire, they get sent into the OR, but it's not to take their organs. They want to take their skin. And I thought that was very interesting. Just to, and I could kind of see what's going on and when I'm working in that department, and see if someone BB skinned is not a pleasant sight, trust me. At my day job, it's becoming very stressful. And I know that it's coming to an end, even though I haven't been given any specific dates or anything. I could just tell by the attitude of the person I work for. And I kind of felt this around the holiday season, as I was covering a lot of people, of course, during the holiday season. They take their time off because some of them can't carry it over to the next year. And I was doing a lot of coverage and working a lot of hours. Even though I still have the night job, I'm still logging in a lot of hours at the day job, trying to cover 2 different people who might be out. And I didn't receive even a holiday greeting or a Christmas card or a Happy New Year's card or anything from that company, which I felt to be very strange and also very tacky, because I did do a lot of work for them that saved them a lot of money and confusion, and was able to adapt and move into a lot of different positions and do a lot of different tasks for them. And I expected, a well wishes, card or something from them, which is usually what an employer gives you when you work for them. And I worked there for 8 months, and the person I was taking the place of, he's a young, he was diagnosed with cancer. And coming the new year, he came back to work, and he's not able to work a full week. He's only able to work 2 to 3 days a week for a half a day at a time. So I'm still needed, but I know, it's only a matter of time. And in particular, yesterday, the other guy I normally work with, he's a very confused brother, and he's very difficult to have a conversation with. I think he does it purposely. He's one of those people that like to argue and like to make big scenes and make everything into a big spectacle. And I think he does that as his need for white validation. So I've pointed out to him several times that don't do that around me. You know, if me and you are having a discussion and we don't agree, do not interject a white person into this discussion because I don't do that. And he's been pretty good with not doing that with me. He understands. However, the guy who came back, he interjected himself into a conversation me and the guy had. And I swear I never seen anything like this. This man stood up very angrily. And from what I understand, they had a very contentious relationship prior to me working here. A friendly contentious. It's not a malicious like argument. It's more of a friendly argument. But this the guy who's just came back, every word that comes out his mouth is nigga. Yo, my nigga, this nigga, that nigga. So it kind of like, wow, we're in a open space here, and these two are going at it. And I mean, his whole commentary. So I had stopped, like, yo, bro, man, calm down, man. Why you keep saying that? And then he gets to I don't give a F. Everybody know how my mouth is in here. Ain't nobody gonna say nothing. I'll go to the boss's office and so the same way. And it was just like, wow, well, I'm going to lunch. I'm out of here. And another guy sitting there was like, oh, I'm with you, because it was just very, very difficult to hear. And to have this black male who, he doesn't care. Obviously, I asked the other guy, like, did you do this before? He's like, yep, it's just how he talks. This is why he hasn't been able to move up in the company. He believes it's because of his attitude and the way he speaks, and so freely to people. And I explained to the guy upon coming back that, man, when you use that type of language at work, I've seen people lose their jobs for calling people, another black person nigga at work. And his thing was, I don't give a F that, and he got loud as he said that. So I was like, okay, can't have any conversations with this guy. And I'll mute my line. Thank you.
Wow. That at least great bit of counter-racist codification on the job in terms of asking the other victim to not bring a racist into the dialogue when you all do not agree. That is outstanding. People that we have not heard from at all, you should speak now. Anybody that we have missed totally, you should go ahead and speak now.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Greetings to you, the host, the callers, and the listeners. I had called in before about my experience as a real estate agent. I wanted to say a little bit more about that. First thing I was going to say was before I had mentioned about a listing that was taken from me by my broker. It was actually a $330,000 listing. I said $33,000 listing last time I spoke, I think. But she had, anyway, just to make that clear, she had taken for me, it was a pretty big listing at the time. But I had tried, once I got on my own, I tried to, once I opened up my own real estate company and got my broker's license, I went to a lot of the different black organizations around the city. And, I spoke to them. I tried to explain to them, to the best of my understanding, what some of the plans were for the black part of town. And I kept trying to get different organizations, different groups of black people to purchase big plots of land in the black area of town. But it ended up being very difficult. And one of the things that made it difficult was the fair housing laws. I thought that was a little interesting. Because, I can't discriminate. So I can't, it's a little difficult, or it's actually very difficult to get a group of black people together to purchase a piece of land and then be exclusive, to the black people. that was particularly difficult. And then, I believe it was last year, I ended up meeting Dr. Claude Anderson, which was a pleasure to meet him. And I asked him what happened in Detroit because he had mentioned, on one of his speaking engagements, he was mentioning that he was trying to purchase land out in Detroit, and I suppose he was buying up commercial property and then was going to turn it into a black business district or something along those lines. I asked him, what happened? Why didn't that work out? He was basically saying that I think the black people were saying that it was racist, and a number of other people were saying that it was a racist act for him to get a black district. I just say all that to say that it's really, really difficult to operate in this system. It's almost like trying to work on my own, because working for other people, I understand I'm going to have to work for white people in some way capacity, even if I'm working on my own. But working for white people, that was horrible because they made sure I felt like I was a slave. They made sure of it. But then when I went to work on my own, and I try to do all these things that I could see would be beneficial to the black population, there's so many laws that are in place that prevent it. And then, because white people own everything in existence, you still have to go back to them in order to get anything accomplished anyway. So Dr. Clyde Anderson talks about having industries vertically integrated, which means you own every aspect of the industry, every aspect of the business. But it's really difficult to do, almost impossible to do, because once again, white people own everything in existence. They own the distribution companies. They own however you're going to get wherever you're getting your supply from. They own that. They own the land and the air. And if you don't like it, then change the situation. But that's what white supremacy is that we haven't been able to change it thus far. But I would just say one thing that I've used to kind of help me get through dealing with this system is doing something my mother had taught me when I was younger. My mom's a psychologist, and one thing, we were homeschooled and also went to a school also of our family that our family owned, but then we went to public school. But during public school, whenever we went to public school, one thing my mom would tell us is, tell yourself that you're going to make an A. So she would make us repeat it, her children, she would make us repeat it, I'm going to get an A, I'm going to get an A. And then, I made A's, my siblings made A's. And then that's another thing you can, use even in your job situation, because language is instructive. You can tell yourself, I'm going to have a constructive day. I'm going to end racism, white supremacy. I'm going to do it in a year. You can say certain things and it actually come into fruition. And then the last thing I was going to say was that, again, we don't own anything. In order to own something, so in order to own land anyway, you have to occupy it, you have to defend it. I've mentioned that before. But the only true way to purchase land is in blood. And, whether you're marrying into so that your blood occupies it, or whether you're removing the occupants off of the land. But that's all I would say. Thank you.
Sure, we are encroaching on the end of the broadcast, and we actually might fail. Gus might actually fail to nab everybody who called in, and might also fail to get all of the questions. That was how much participation we had today. If that is the case, then we will have to make adjustments moving forward to make sure everybody has time to participate. But glad to hear we had so much robust participation. The caller in North Carolina, were you going to share?
May I be heard?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. Thank you. This is my first time calling into workplace racism. So I wanted to give something that happened to me back in 2013. I was working at a corporate hair salon. I was the only black female. No, I'm sorry. There were 3 black females, including myself, working at this salon, along with about 12 white stylists. The manager was white, and our clientele was about 90% white, maybe about, I'd say 5 to 10% non-white. So we had like Asians, East Indians, and Hispanics that were coming as well. So this particular day was a Saturday. I'm a little nervous, I'm sorry, but this particular day on Saturday, it was my time to get off around 3 o'clock. And what ended up happening was 2 of the people who were supposed to close the salon, which were a white male and a white female, they were supposed to close. The white male had gotten into a car accident. I actually picked up the phone when he called. He was okay, but his car had gotten totaled, and so he wasn't going to be able to come in. So the white female called in as well and said that she was not going to be able to call in because she had a migraine headache. Okay, so there was no one to close for that day, and I had already worked pretty much all day, like from, 9 to 3, that was my shift work. So nobody wanted to cover the shift, and the manager of the salon was not there. So I said that I would close. So that was fine. We tried to find someone else who wanted to close, and we ended up finding another stylist who wanted to close. One of the other ladies that was there, she really didn't want to, but she decided to, and she also was a white female. So just a little background. At this time, I had been working there for about 6 months. I actually came from the same salon. Like I said, it's a corporate hair salon, but from another town. So I had transferred in to this salon. I already knew my job. Everything was good. I wasn't really having too many problems. Well, actually, I wasn't having really any problems with the manager at this time. So, worked the entire night. At the end of the night, I had asked, before the end of the night, I had asked one of the stylist who I was closing with, I had asked her, I said, do we get paid for doing a double shift? And she said no. Now, in the previous store that I worked in, we did get paid for doing double shifts. So I kind of was feeling like that was an act of racism. I wasn't really quite understanding that. Now, at that time, I wasn't even listening to the C.O.W.S, so I wasn't quite as codified as I am to this day. So I said, okay. So when I clocked out administration, which means when you do that, you get paid extra. So I clocked out that particular type of way. And at the end of the night, when she closed the register, she seen that I had clocked out administration. Now, she is a stylist just like myself. She was not an assistant manager. She was not the manager or anything like that. She said to me, didn't I tell you that we did not get paid extra for clocking out? I said, yeah. And she said, well, then why did you clock out administrator? I said, well, I did because that's how we did it in the other store. So she started to raise her voice at me. And she was like, well, just because, you did it in the store then doesn't mean you have to do it like that here, and you should know that. And so we went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I said, listen, if this is a real problem, I said, we can deal with the manager and tell her. That should really be it. She was heated. She was extremely, extremely upset with me for so-called going behind her back and clocking in the way that I clocked in. or class, going through administration. So I said, okay. So that was at the end of the night. We closed up, and I said to myself, I said, I need to make sure in the morning that I call the manager first, because I know this stylist, this white female, she was going to call this other white female first thing in the morning, and she's going to tell her everything. And that is basically what happened. The following day, I did not work, but I did call the manager. I did speak with her. The other stylist had already spoken to her. I did not tell the manager everything I wanted to tell her on the phone, because I decided I would do that the following day when I was coming into work. So I came into work. On this day, there was a new white female. First time that she started to work there, she was already on the floor. And the young lady who had the migraine, she was also on the floor working when I came in. The manager asked to speak with me in the back before I set up everything. I went in the back. She also pulled in the other stylist that I worked with the night previous. We went into the her office, and she told me that basically after we did a little bit of talking, she told me that she was going to have to let me go due to the fact that I come into work late. I knew that was total, racism. I knew that she was doing this strictly off of Mary. Now, the white stylist, she was in the room the entire time. She brought her into the room, and she did not say anything. So I'm thinking that she was basically in the room to have the manager back in case I decided, to further go beyond them and go up to the owners to talk to them about what had happened. So that stylist was in there just for that reason. But that is not the reason why I got fired. I got fired due to the fact that that particular stylist and her were close, and she called her and she basically made a scene about our confrontation. It really wasn't much of a confrontation. I did not curse at the woman. I did not downgrade the woman. I didn't do anything. She just didn't like the fact that I went and I did something that she did not want me to do. Basically, that's it. So I was fired. I did leave. And I probably could have did more to have stayed, but by that time, my anxiety in dealing in that job with basically, like I said, 90% white clientele, about 12 of the stylists were white. There was only 3 black stylists in there, including myself, and it was just this type of environment where it was a lot of racial things going on, and the anxiety was, I just felt like I just needed to find somewhere else to go, and that's what I did. So I got fired from that job. That was some years ago, 2013, but that's just what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Spectacular. Well, not spectacular. Unfortunate it had to be those circumstances, but I mean, that is ultra common for black people who show some self-respect, and that I'm not going to be intimidated, and that I actually can use my voice to speak up when I'm being falsely accused, or you all are trying to say that I did this or did that, and, I can use my brain computer to respond. Like, it's tons that, which again, just going back to what I said at the beginning, a lot of that is going to happen anyway. That's just the system of racism, white supremacy, where you can do everything correct, you can stay calm, have your documentation, and they still fire you. That is the system that we're in. But to try to give yourself the best possible advantage, that's why, we talk all the time on the program, just document as much as you can, stay calm so that you do not give them any additional assistance in the process. But those sort of things all the time, looking to make sure you don't get compensated adequately. We've had at least 2 or 3 of those incidents just on this broadcast today, but that comes up all the time. We're going to make sure that you get as few nickels as possible. Look like you're doing anything to get an extra dollar, an extra cent. We're going to fight tooth and nail to keep you from getting, I mean, that's just standard. My man called in before where they are not even getting him his checks in a timely manner, sending them all over the town and what have you. That's just standard operating procedure. That's why we do the programs every week and just try to come up with the best suggestions that we possibly can. And I'm glad Dr. Claude Anderson got mentioned as well. Great information. But this is the same thing. Even, if you say, well, hey, I'm going to get my own business, you're still going to have to deal with the system of white supremacy. I will ask Hardy.
May I say something else?
Can you get it in 15 seconds?
Oh, go ahead. That's okay. Thank you so much, sir.
No problem. It's just we did our full 3 hours. That was what I was going to say. We did the 3 hours, and we still failed to get everybody. We had robust participation this week. I did figure that, work was getting back in. We had the holidays, so I know a lot of people were not having to work as many hours over the past few weeks, and that probably ended. So my apologies. We will do better moving forward next week to make sure that we get everybody. I know we missed a couple people who called in who didn't get to share, and even some people who emailed as well. We'll try and compensate and get all of that next week. I hope it was a constructive investment of your Thursday evening to be able to share, hear some information that'll help us get a better understanding of things that are happening to us and things that we can do to try to neutralize some of these acts. Regardless of what happens, if you figure out something successful that works on the job, backs them up off you so that you don't get in trouble or what have you, rest assured they will be gunning for you again in the morning. So remain vigilant, stay alert on the job, be paying attention to what they're saying, read that policy and procedure, and we'll do it again next Thursday for Workplace Racism. Same time every week, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, only on Thursdays. We will be here tomorrow. We will conclude Gwen Eifel's The Breakthrough, Politics and Race in the Age of Obama. The book is not that long, thankfully. It was not one of my favorites, and I think even other listeners said that they didn't enjoy it that much either. But I have learned some things, and it'll be great to wrap it all up tomorrow. Normal time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We'll be here on Saturday for the compensatory call-in, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, and then we'll also be here on Sunday. This is our Global Sunday Talk on Racism, White Supremacy. Our international listeners will join us. That is the early broadcast this coming Sunday, so if you're watching NFL playoff football, then you can put it on mute and listen to the call. We'll be here 3 p.m. Eastern, early program, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Pacific. With that, thanks everyone for tuning in. Sobriety would be best under conditions of white supremacy. With that, Creator, we ask that you help us remain patient with other black people, victims of white supremacy. We ask that you help us remain patient with ourselves. Remind us to demonstrate the highest levels of black self-respect at all times, in all places, each and every time we are in contact with another black person. It has been time. Replace white supremacy with justice immediately. Cows signing out. Thanks all for tuning in.
Nigga, you so brainwashed. I'm a victim, brother. Problem. You're a victim. I'm a victim of 400 years of conditioning. Shut up. The man has programmed my conditioning. Mm-hmm. Even my conditioning has been conditioned.